Devin, this is not a blast off meme. I don't know what you're doing here. Stop linking it to me over and over again. What the fuck is this? Devin's like, hey, do you want to use this as a blast off meme? Like, no, dude. I don't even know what I'm looking at, dog. Stop spamming it. Yeah, he's like, everyone needs to apologize to me. It turns out the medical research was written in Jewish, I guess. Anyway, I just used a different... He's saying the Nazis only burned non-German books without engaging in why they were considered non-German. Yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand what that... Like, you're... Oh, damn. This would have been a fire blast off meme, but it's too late. Okay. I'll address the Asmongold stuff in a second, because this doesn't... Like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to freaking begin. Where to start with that one. But... when the Nazis said something was un-German, that doesn't mean that it was actually not really German or written in what Asmongold considers to be Jewish, which is not a language. It could have been Yiddish or Hebrew. It definitely wasn't Hebrew, and most likely wasn't Yiddish either. The books were written in German. Some of them might have been in other languages as well. But as far as like un-German, they don't mean like literally, oh, we hate different languages, which would have been ridiculous altogether, right? That's also weird. I don't know why we're acting like if the Nazis were like, we just hate the linguistic style of the Spanish, that's why we're burning these books. That still would be an odd thing to do. However, when the Nazis, specifically Goebbels is the one who called these books un-German, what he was saying is they're morally degenerate and not real German. Like, they were instilling a nationalist sentiment, presenting the books as though they weren't written by real Germans. Now, in this assessment in the year 2025, when you look back at that, you go, oh, that's just nationalist propaganda claiming that something that was created by German people, medical research that was for German queer folk, being considered un-German is a way for the Nazis to famously cast these groups of people as outcasts and then put them in fucking death camps and kill them. Because that's what happened, okay? You don't have to take their position and go, no, I was right. They're actually un-German. You don't have to take the Nazi position. That's crazy. I do think that, yes, inevitably, when you go right-wing, there is going to be a point where you engage in some kind of revisionism or apologia for the Nazi party, while also simultaneously saying that they were socialists, which is, ironic, also ahysterical. But I didn't think we'd get there this fast. That's the only thing that I think it's an inevitability, but I just didn't think we would get there this fast, okay? Yeah. His chat was just celebrating trans people being banned from the military. Some were saying it inspired them to enlist. That's the funniest joke I've heard. I'm imagining a fucking Asmongold fan in the military. That is hilarious. That's not happening. American military superiority in the shitter, okay? First of all, that's definitely not happening. Oh yeah, I was gonna join the military. The one thing that was stopping me is the fucking trans people in the ranks. Okay, bud, sure. Okay. How about you take a shower first, okay? Baby steps, big guy. Baby steps, take a shower, maybe go outside, see the sunlight for once, and then you can consider these other big decisions. Okay, I think these guys forget that, like, you can't just be a drone operator and be permanently transfixed on your couch where the leather has basically become your second skin, where you're just like melting into the couch, and then you use like your little Xbox controller to use the drones. You still have to do like military drills and stuff, even in the Air Force, the chair force. So anyway, him also saying he's not the biggest political commentator is fucking crazy too. No, Asmongold 100% is the largest political commentator on this platform, which is interesting because that is precisely what people wanted. Not Asmongold personally. that wasn't Asmongold's wishes. I don't think he had a dream of being like the largest political commentator on the platform, but he did become it. It was, however, the wishes of many other people. Many other people, like I would say a lot of my naysayers on the liberal side. I won't even name them, but I'll name one of them, Sex Pestiny, for example, in his community. consistently created allegiances and you know, used every moment that they could to disparage figures that they considered to be the true threat to liberal values. People like myself, people who have not strayed away from being anti-fascist even a little bit. Now, having said that, the misconstruing the point that you're saying they wanted another dissenting voice in lieu of you just bringing up his name, this is not a what? No, they wanted a dissenting voice. They got it. What do you mean? Unless you meant, oh, they only want one dissenting voice, and that dissenting voice is a sex pest and a serial harasser of virtually every fucking content creator that dares to, you know, hurt his feelings. Is that what you're saying? Because that is what they were. Yes, that's what they wanted. But in that process of disparagement, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of charitability that was cast aside for someone like myself. And luckily for all of those naysayers, there is a dissenting voice now. This is the dissenting voice they got. Real monkey's paw situation for them. I agree with you about post Asmon's rise. Once they realized the Frankenstein had been created, they've been relatively critical of him. Yeah, except they also do still cherish and celebrate when Asmongold takes pot shots against me, because a lot of these people, no matter how hard they act like they're liberals, still care about drama more, and they still care about disparaging content creators that they feel have wronged their intellectual titan. That's the thing about being in a cult-like community where you don't have like a real moral compass. Some do, certainly. They won't actually recognize what they've been doing nonstop, but you know, they got it. This is what they wanted for, and they got it. So I don't know why they're complaining. Now, the original comment came when Asmongold incorrectly said, where is it? It's on Twitter. Let's just pull back a little bit. I don't know why Asmongold was watching stuff about, you know, I don't know why he was watching this, probably to fucking dunk on this like woke lib or whatever. But here's a person correctly talking about what the Nazis had done in terms of the first famous book burning that they engaged in, which was a library, a German library filled to the brim with medical research and data about trans people and queer people in general in Germany.
Remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences.
They did do that.
Correct. Asmon is correct. Starts off good. Okay. Great. Good start. Okay. If the clip ends here, if it's a 12-second clip, you know what's really funny? If you clip Asmongold out of context, it sounds, you know, normal and good. When you show additional context, it turns into the diametrical opposite, which is fun. Like from my ideological perspective, maybe not from others, but from where I'm standing, if someone had clipped this in the first 12 seconds, you're like, oh, good ending. Okay, great, cool. Which is ironic because my haters do that shit to me all the time, where they clip me out of context to make me assume positions that I don't have. And then when you watch the longer footage, you're like, oh, never mind. I actually totally got this wrong. So let's see what the rest of the context is, or what he continues to say after.
First, now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans.
It's a bit of a like my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German.
This gets me every time. I'm sorry. Okay. Obviously, Jewish is not a language, and it certainly wasn't written in Hebrew, because that came after. I mean, Hebrew existed as a language, but wasn't as commonly used till after the Israeli state was designed. What he might mean is Yiddish, but even then, it's most likely not the case. Okay? Most likely not the case that these books were written in Yiddish. Okay? Which I guess is technically Jewish German when you really think about it. But also, that was the argument that the Nazis had maintained, which was that this research, whether it be for trans people, whether it be queer people, is un-German. So why do you keep saying it absolutely could have not been Hebrew? Because Hebrew was not a commonly used language until before 1948. Like, I mean, it was most German Jews spoke German and Yiddish. And also, yeah, it's not an academic language anyway. No academic would write a book in Yiddish. Also, Yiddish is just a dialect of German, so it's more like some specific words than an entire language. Exactly. I've talked about this before in terms of like the linguistic wonders of the nationalist project of Israel that revitalized the language of Hebrew. Hebrew was not a vernacular language at the time. It was mostly, yeah, it was almost wholly liturgical. This is a liturgical language. It's like revitalizing Latin, okay? And then making it the common, the common language. So at that time, it was simply liturgical. It was a religious scripture, religious text, and it was not a commonly applied normal. It didn't have normal colloquial usage. This is something that Israel actually did in terms of revitalizing Hebrew and making it the nation state's language after 1948. This is why I say there was no way that it was written in Hebrew. Now, of course, Asmongold doesn't know any of this. Okay, we're not like I'm trying to offer you additional context, and Yiddish in and of itself is basically a German language with some like it's not a language that would be used in academic settings as a written language. It was just a German sounding like a variant of German almost, if that makes sense. Again, Asmongold said neither. He just said it's written in Jewish, which is one, wrong in and of itself, completely wrong. I'm also offering to you the additional context as to why it's wrong, giving you relevant historical data about the language of Hebrew and where it got to and what kind of dialects that German Jews had used. Okay, Jewish is not a language. It is an ethno-religion. But also, last but not least, the Nazis were the ones who claimed that this was un-German. Specifically, a little-known guy by the name of Joseph Goebbels. So you don't have to apply their logic in the year 2025 when we already know that that was the wrong logic, right? The notion that like Jewish people are not German in 1934, 1935, 1938 was not correct. They were German. They were German Jews. Just like Jewish Americans are American Jews. And they're not a specific subsect of society. They're not like, out there as a alien formation, as a separate group. Okay? So that's just something important to address, even though I never thought that it would be necessary to address.
And it was like a retaking of Germany for Germans. That was like the uprising of the Nazis. So it was like, yeah, they were. I think it probably might be both in some circumstances, but like it was categorical for it not being written in German.
It was written in. Okay. The other part of this is that even if the books weren't written in the German language, which they were, but even if they weren't written in the German language, that would still be fucking insane to just burn these books. Just so we're clear. See, the benefit of learning about history is so that we, of course, in theory, don't repeat the mistakes of the past. That's number one. Number two, the second benefit of learning about history is that we don't have to assume the positions that the Nazi government took and like take their marketing around the actions that they took for granted. We don't have to take it at face value is what I'm saying. Right? Based. Isn't this general knowledge? Is he pretending? I mean, to be fair, I don't think a lot of people knew that the first book burnings that took place in Nazi Germany were queer research. I was not even familiar with this, around 6 years ago. That was the first time I found out about it. I don't think it's like super common knowledge. Some people know. I think a lot of people in this community know, but I'm sure queer people know because it's like queer history, but it's not W. Adolf, insane. But regardless, it doesn't matter. What matters is the truth. What matters is learning, okay? Learning about what actually took place. So I will repeat this once again. To claim that the Nazis actually burned these books because they were not German is to assume that Joseph Goebbels was correct in his assessment that you have, let's say, like a 1930s German nationalist style of thinking, right? Take the Holocaust, for example. It would be akin to saying, well, the Jews that were sent to the concentration camps initially were not sent to the concentration camps on the virtue of being Jewish, but they were sent to the concentration camps on the virtue of being a parasitic force that was outside of the interests of German patriotism. Okay? Do you understand? It's technically not incorrect if your assessment is what the Germans were thinking at the time, right? But it is incorrect if you are describing historical events in 2025. That was their claim. And there is historical relevance and importance to address what they were saying, as long as you don't relitigate the Nazi framing as though that is the appropriate position. Do you think a streamer's chat is a one-to-one reflection of that streamer's beliefs? Absolutely not. And the reason for why I will say that is because there are plenty of people who don't agree with me, who fucking hate my guts, that come into this community all the time. There are hate raids that happen. I do, however, think that the streamer can try to do their very best within the limited confines of moderation to make sure that, chat behaves a certain way or has certain opinions. Okay? Like, a similar example is when I sometimes talk about, I talk about Israel all the time. And in the process of me talking about Israel, there are sometimes chatters who get a little ahead of themselves, okay? And what do I do in that process? I click on their names, I pull them to the public square, and I give them a hefty little ban. This is what is known as pushback or housekeeping. Ironically enough, there are plenty of people that still turn around and say, I don't do any of that, as a matter of fact. I'm the most anti-Semitic community of all time. But in any case, they will use the clip of you saying moderating the chat is hard. Yes, I know they will. And I will explain that position once again, as I have done time and time again, which is that there's only so much moderation you can do if someone, for example, if Asmongold came up to me right now and said, hey, Hassan, your chat is calling me a Nazi sympathizer, right? I would say to Asmongold what I told Ethan at the time a long time ago, which is that if you walk like a duck and quack like a duck, there's only so much moderation I can do to stop people from assuming you're a duck. Okay? Just so you understand, that was the point that I was making, which was, of course, clipped out of context as well, because many people don't actually want to have a real conversation, but instead want to speak in, 12-second increments. I hope that much is clear as well. So yeah, there's only so much moderation one can do in terms of making sure that chat reflects a certain set of values when, people are still individuals that can make up their own mind about certain issues, and many do. And a lot of people actually yell at me in my community for having opinions that they don't align with or don't agree with. This happens all the time. This is why there are millions of compilations out there of me yelling at my fucking chat all the time. Like when you cried to XQC, am I right? Yeah, so that's another good point, actually. Here's one thing you can do, which is not actively claim that a person is snaking you and lying to you when all evidence actually shows the exact opposite. If you're comparing like someone very deliberately and very specifically portraying another content creator as a fucking hate, as a beacon of hate for all things wrong in society, or especially in your community, that's a little bit different in terms of like demanding some semblance of moderation. I'm glad that we're understanding that different dynamics do exist and that you can't actually rob conversations from the nuance that it deserves. I'm glad that we are finally at that stage. Anyway, so your boy XQC was crying about not having friends. I wonder why. I mean, this person I don't even think cares about XQC all that much. I think this person is probably just a hater of mine, ironically enough. Like, I don't think he said that to defend XQC. I think he said that specifically because he's seen that clip and he thinks it's a good own. All right. A person I know watches Asmon and he questions all the simple shit and thinks Hassan is weird. And I asked him why he watches Asmon even though he's a fucking loser. And he said it's because he's funny. He said he just likes asking questions. And I told him he sounds ignorant in the way that he questions shit that he can look up himself. And he just repeats what he hears and sees in clips, self-admittedly too. I think a lot of people do this. People in this community do this as well. But I try to do my very best to at least make sure that you come in here, whether you're a hater or not, you come in here, whatever your intentions are, you leave learning a different perspective. You know what I mean? When you talk about Stalin, there are a lot of W's in the chat. Yeah, exactly. No, that's great fucking example. Yes. Yes, 100%. I think you probably mentioned that as like an own or whatever, but yeah, no, that's a great fucking example. 100%. This is the difference. Like I don't have a fear of showcasing like socialist iconography or defending certain aspects of previous formations of socialist governance. Like there is plenty of criticism that is appropriate for Stalin, obviously. But in terms of, especially in the context of Nazi Germany, yeah, no, that is a W Stalin moment. You know, that's a W Easy Company moment. That's W to the United States of America. And that's a certain W for Stalin as well, in terms of ridding the world, at least for a brief moment, of the Nazi scourge. So, you know. Big fan. Greetings from Vienna. Nice. Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, W England moment too, sadly, is true. I hate to recognize that especially, but yeah, it is true. As a W England moment too. So, yeah. As far as all of this goes, like this is exactly what I warned ahead of time and time again, saying that if you even make jokes, edgy jokes, even whether you agree to it or not, edgy jokes that kind of, you know, make Nazis feel comfortable, you will develop an entire chat that says W based when talking about how Nazis were engaging in book burnings of you know, queer people in general. And of course, that's the first stage of this process, because what comes next, if you are familiar with history, is then taking some of that research, finding who the gay people were or who the trans people were in German society, and then branding them with the pink triangle, and then sending them to the death camps and killing them. And that's what happened. Okay? It's kind of the real reason why you learn about the history of Nazi Germany. It's a reason why we have an entire field of study dedicated almost specifically to the Holocaust. Okay? There are entire fields of study surrounding genocides in general, but there's also Holocaust studies as well. And the purpose of learning about the Holocaust is so that we understand how nationalism manifests, what the conditions look like, and understand that there are certain markers when a society is moving in that direction. And the reason why you learn about this is so that you don't repeat these mistakes, right? He wants to debate. Can you take it? Yeah, of course. I would love to talk to Asmongold about this and specifically educate his community on the matter. But yeah, this person just keeps asking, can you explain to me what the Druze people, who they are? Bro, please, time and place. All right. But in terms of this conversation and where it's moved on, I believe, this is funny, make Germany great again. Decentralization is what will help me implement my plans. Apparently, Adolf Hitler came back and was popping on Twitter earlier today. Yeah, he had a government badge too. Article about how queer victims were erased from the Holocaust narrative. What is happening to my freaking nothing works? Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, I have watched the Don't Be a Sucker. This is a great formative work on, this is a War Department education film that came from the Information and Education Division in the Army Service Forces it's a series of educational films from 1942 to 1947. Okay? Classic. This item was produced in 1945. It is at a time when America was understandably perturbed by growing fascism in its ranks. Called Don't Be a Sucker. I gotta pee real quick. I'll be back in a second.
This looks like a fake, doesn't it? Well, it is a fake. But here's a fella who's willing to bet his hard-earned money on it. Henry here got on the train with $200. He couldn't see any harm in a friendly game of cards. What if the other men were strangers? And take Joe Collins. He's got a nice wife at home. But he met this girl at the bar, and she looked kinda cute after the first couple of drinks. There's a good old-fashioned word for people like this. We call them suckers. And there are other people. People who stay up nights figuring out how to take away what they've got. There are all kinds of games and all kinds of suckers. Take Mike here, for instance. He's got everything, you might say. He's young, he's healthy, he's got a job, and he's got a country called America. It's a wonderful thing to have, America. Lots of room. Room enough to raise plenty of food.
Do you think the Holocaust will ever become irrelevant, as in people will stop bringing it up to justify things happening nowadays? If you're saying that to be like, well, justifying the nation state of Israel and the development and the apartheid and the genocide, I think understanding the Holocaust is more important to understand the similarities of what Israel is currently engaging in. So, no, I don't think the Holocaust should ever become irrelevant. I think it is more relevant now than ever before, okay? It quite literally is even more relevant now to truly understand how nationalism manifests in a country, okay? It is quite disturbing to see, like, otherwise liberal Zionists repeating Kahanist positions like never again, implying never again actually just means never again to Jews. That is the Kahanist position. Meir Kahan, for those of you who don't know, is a right-wing Jewish supremacist terrorist, okay? A far-right Jewish supremacist terrorist, a Jewish Nazi, if you will. And seeing his attitude reflected in broader Israeli society is truly terrifying because it spells trouble and disorder. It also showcases where Israeli society has gotten to in terms of normalizing fascist, supremacist, racist opinions. And no, he was not considered a hero in Israel. At least throughout time, he was not considered a hero in Israel. There was always a 20% that liked him, but it's kind of like the, 20% of Republicans that think, evil historical figures are actually good, right? Like the Israeli state officially considered him a terrorist. Now you have his lackeys and his followers in Israeli government. So I think it's important to understand where Israeli society is at now, specifically because it shows the evolution. It shows the evolution of how normal people who otherwise would be like, yeah, these guys are bad. They're way too far. They're way too insane. What? Who's lackeys? Meir Kahan's followers are now in high positions in the Benjamin Netanyahu coalition. Itamar Ben-Gvir being a great example. Okay? Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir are like Jewish supremacist fascists, straight up. I mean, Itamar Ben-Gvir is a part of the Jewish Power Party, like as in white power. It's the same thing. Anyway, but we won't get into the don't be a sucker stuff. I want to see what Asmon has to say. There is literally no reason to fucking go to school, study political science. It's not. Hey, congratulations to the DigiGers, okay? DigiGers, you did it. #1 political commentator on the platform. Still.
Hassan is really getting upset about this #1 political commentator.
I'm not. Listen, it's the world that they wanted to see. He is the #1 political commentator. It's true. But I can't believe Asmongold still tries to say he's apolitical. Hold on. Let me put my apolitical hat on. As an apolitical content creator, okay? As an apolitical content creator, I think Asmongold claiming that he's not a political commentator is crazy. Okay? And he knows it too. We watch the same shit every day, brother. Am I not a political commentator? Am I also not a political commentator? Wait, hold on. Let me take the apolitical hat off. Now you can see I am a political commentator. Hold on. Let me put the apolitical hat on again. You might be mistaken to think I'm a political person because I'm wearing the apolitical hat. But, like, let's look at Asmongold's YouTube page, Asmongold TV. Asmongold's YouTube page. ICE raids create ghost towns across New York City. Asmongold reacts. Okay. Elden Ring or Night Rain. You can tell this game is going to be good. Elden Ring Night Rain gameplay is crazy. Pokemon is going viral again. Okay. There's interspersed stuff there that is not inherently political, even though there is a political perspective that Asmongold maintains when talking about gaming in general. But if you were to say that this is a gaming channel, it'd be kind of wild at this point, right? JD Vance is warning to Europe, you're turning totalitarian. Trump is crashing out. RFK Jr. becomes Trump's national health secretary. Asmongold isn't just a political commentator. Asmongold is a very successful political commentator. Okay? And I don't mean like, oh, what the fuck is happening? This is another, look at the weird queer folk type video. Okay? Asmongold is a more successful right-wing political commentator, and I've said this before. Asmongold is a more successful right-wing political commentator than fucking Ben Shapiro. He gets 50% lower views on his like gaming videos now. Okay? We're living through a fucking meme. Donald Trump. Trump just released the Kraken. 2 million views. What the fuck is wrong with Twitch? 600,000 views. And it's like Twitch not banning me for the pro-terrorism propaganda that I was engaging in, which is ironic to say. Okay? When you fuck around, Kanye's going viral again. President Trump's fucking brutal. I don't know why he thinks that you're upset about him being number one when right-wing commentators have always been above you. Yeah, I'm a leftist online. I never have taken my position for granted. Asmon said he doesn't want to debate. I mean, I said I would have a conversation with Asmongold. Doesn't have to be a debate. But I don't know why his chat said that he wanted to debate, and then now he's saying he doesn't want to. But I understand why he wouldn't want to. Anyway, so just wanted to point this out just so people understand the idea that like Asmongold is not a political content creator is ridiculous. And I think most people understand that.
Hassan is the #1 political commentator on the platform. He always has been. I cover some political issues. Hassan only covers political issues.
No, that's like me saying I'm a gaming journalist because I watch the fucking state of play. Okay? This is not only wrong, but I think it's also deliberately obtuse. And I think the reason why it's deliberately obtuse is because when you are doing political commentary, you now on Twitch, due to a lot of the pushback from the Diddy Gears and Dan Saltman and Sex Pestany and the like, and even Ethan Klein, you now have to put this tag on, a content label, political and sensitive social issues. I don't know if Asmongold puts the tag on when he does his commentary. Okay? I don't know if he does that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I truly don't know. And I don't think this chat is going to give me the correct answer. Okay? But I have to. Because when I don't, there are people who wait. Okay? I have it all the time. I have it on all the time. Because when I don't have it on, okay, when I do not have the news and politics, like political sensitive content label, people immediately start mass reporting to try to get me banned. He's ducking you, saying he doesn't see the point in talking to you, then coped talking about your ex-podcast co-host video. Yeah, I've always been very graceful when talking to Asmon directly. Perhaps, to a degree where people yell at me all the time and say I'm caping for him and defending him.
I've never said that. I've never insinuated that. Now, if he's mad that the videos that I do get more views or something, that's fine. That's okay. But I'm not trying to shit on him, and I never was. And also, by the way,
it's not me shitting on him when I say he's the largest political content creator. It's the truth. It's just the truth.
If you go over to Destiny's subreddit, you'll find that a lot of them really don't like me either. So this entire idea that
they're also truly a force that doesn't necessarily care about like political ideology as much. They disagree with Asmongold on a lot of the stuff he says, but they're not above using Asmongold's community as a force to consistently attack people that they consider far greater enemies of their favorite content creator, Sex Pestany.
The reason why I'm successful is because of Destiny. I find to be incredibly ironic from Hassan, because I think that Destiny really went out on a limb back.
I don't think he's I don't think he understood what I was saying there. I wasn't saying that he's successful because of Destiny. I was saying that, for example, on the election night coverage, on the election day coverage, Destiny, Sex Pestany, and his community had actively went out to every single advertiser and sent out false information about like Twitch banning Israeli accounts or whatever the fuck, right? Like actual libel that they had sent out to every news outlet possible, and they'd sent out to like every single advertiser of Twitch in an effort to try and get me banned. And they openly stated that this was their purpose. It was either to A, get Sex Pestany unbanned from the platform, or B, get me banned before the election. And because of that, Twitch didn't ban me, so shouts out to them. But part of that, I think, led to Twitch taking me off the main page, like taking me off the algorithm, blacklisting me. And for that reason, Asmongold on the night of the election got a shit ton of viewers, of course. Like he was going to get it because he's one of the top content creators on the platform for sure. But he definitely was when someone went on twitch.tv without a logged account on election day, the only content creator that came up that was covering election day was Asmongold. That's it. That's a boost. That is a reality, right? If it wasn't significant, regardless of the 300 and I think like what 14K viewership I got for the entire day, who knows how high that number possibly would have been if I also was in the algorithm. People had to directly like click on twitch.tv/Hasanabi to get to my fucking profile. And many people did. Hundreds of thousands of people did. So that still failed. Like that initiative still failed. But I think that process also gave a lot of people an alternative perspective, which is fine. If that's what you wanted, that's what simply all I'm saying. You wanted an alternative dissenting voice to the radical terrorism defense that I'm engaging in because I'm fucking anti-genocide. And you got it. That's it. That's my statement here. It's not that it's not necessarily like, oh, me saying Asmongold's the #1 political commentator for any other reason. It's just the truth.
In 2018 to push Hassan and to platform Hassan. I remember Hassan coming on the Trainwrecks podcast and Destiny bringing him on stream, and I'm sure that there are probably even clips from back in the day.
I don't think it was Destiny that was responsible for me doing a lot of these collaborations. It was Austin and Train personally asking me. But yes, Destiny did initially platform my terrorist ass. That is true, on this platform at least.
Of Destiny and Hassan talking about how much he was appreciative of Destiny. So it's ironic that I'm the person who is the beneficiary of DGG when Hassan was the one who originally was himself. Destiny made Hassan. I'm not going to say that. I didn't.
He seems to think that you calling political is a personal beef instead of an accurate assessment. Yeah, it's not personal beef at all. It's just an accurate assessment.
Say that. All I'm saying is that there's a lot of people that were, and Destiny himself spent a lot of time actually promoting and trying to, bring Hassan into the political culture of Twitch. And he helped Hassan build his channel at the beginning. He did. And I think that Hassan probably would even acknowledge that.
I do acknowledge it. It's true. So just talk to him instead of watching clips of other. I'm not the one who said he wasn't down to talk to Asmongold. I said I was perfectly fine in doing so. Anyway. I don't know why this became the main point of contention here.
This is ironic.
Yeah, go take it up with Asmongold. I'm down to talk to him. I have no issue. The Digigears city of opinion. I hope you're happy with that. It is the diversity of opinion. Asmongold and I disagree with one another on virtually all political issues. There's some agreements there as well, but we disagree on virtually everything, right? Whether it be on the aesthetic front, optic front, whatever, whether it be on an accurate reflection of history. Now, having said that, this is what these guys wanted. The centrist liberals wanted someone who had a disagreement with what they thought was the largest threat to American democracy. This is not even about Asmongold, beyond the fact that he is, correctly, as I've stated, the largest political content creator on this platform.
The follow-up. We'll watch the follow-up.
It is pretty crazy that Asmongold watched that fucking Ethan Klein video, and then
he's unhappy that I watched the content.
No, I hope he watches the full video here, because I wasn't unhappy that he watched the video. You can watch it all day. I don't give a shit. Play it all day. It's just funny that his fans, who are literally saying the Nazis are based, were coming into my chat since he watched that video to be like, why aren't you banned yet, dude, for your anti-Semitic terrorism? That's the point.
Content nuke video. Now, I understand why he's unhappy. I think that if I was him...
Oh, wait. Why didn't he play that fully? Wait, what? What the fuck is that insane stalker account that is now... Wait. Why did he skip through it? Does he get back to it? I hope he gets back to it.
And if you look at a lot of the comments,
whether the video was curated against Hassan or not the fact that he still said the crap just because the dude was blah, 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 blah. Wait, what is it? What is he saying? Oh, he's saying
Hassan, and I actually tried to give him the benefit of the doubt the entire time, because I try to maintain consistency. I try to maintain a lack of bias, and I try to maintain a degree of decorum to make sure that.
I think, by the way, this is true. This is something that I have long maintained. Asmongold is a very strange fellow. Okay? He's a very interesting guy. And for years and years, as a lot of people have viciously come after me and said a whole bunch of different lies, in most circumstances, he has not actually taken the bait. So my disagreement on Asmongold is not around decorum or the optics of the situation. My disagreement on Asmongold is purely politics. It's pure political. I do not agree with his worldview. I do not agree with the audience that he is cultivating. I think it's dangerous. I will go so far as to say that as well. I think it is dangerous to make these kinds of opinions, whether it be transphobic opinions, whether it be anti-migrant opinions, whether it be these like right-wing opinions. I think that creating a habitable ground for these kinds of opinions, whether it is because you're getting a lot of, relevancy out of it, whether it's, whatever your purposes are, or whether you ideologically agree with it, I still think it's harmful. Part of that is because a lot of people don't understand politics. Okay. If many people understood politics, I probably would not be as relevant, I would say. But a lot of people don't understand politics. And because they don't understand politics or don't necessarily care about politics, they just kind of look at clout and they see Asmongold as the top political content creator. And so many of these like centrist content creators will either because they want raids or because they want to collaborate or because they're afraid of offending Asmongold's audience. And even if Asmongold doesn't weaponize his audience in the same way that like other content creators do, people basically develop this attitude that this kind of opinion will actually get you more attention. Okay? You'll be showered with praise and you'll get all this attention. And I think that creates this environment where content creators will start leaning in to right-wing commentary of this sort, even if they previously had no interest in it whatsoever. Okay? Brother, just stick to your echo chamber and let the man have his. People understand politics. Understanding politics doesn't mean they have to be on your side. I don't think you understand anything if you are saying that, oh, just stick to your echo chamber. Okay? And I don't think you understand. I'm saying that Asmongold's politics are wrong. Okay? They're not only wrong, but they're based out of false data. They're incorrect. And it leads to a lot of cruel action down the line. Okay? That's my disagreement. It's very simple. It is a political disagreement. Do you understand, chatter? Yes, of course. Plenty of people don't agree with my worldview. We can agree to disagree, my man. That is a cop-out, chatter. You are engaging in a very classic cop-out. We can agree to disagree is a coward's way out of this conversation. You came in with a bold statement. You said, people understand politics. Understanding politics doesn't mean they have to be on your side. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? I don't know why you are demanding that everyone go back to their neat little hug boxes and not best one another as interlocutors in the marketplace of ideas. I thought that's what a lot of people wanted in the past, I thought, right-wingers especially. No, it's not. They don't. You just want them to be on your side so bad, but it's okay. You're still cool. Again, for someone who chooses not to understand what I'm saying, you are consistently moving the conversation away from historical context or political disagreements back to like a popularity contest. I'm saying that the popularity contest element of this only works because so many people are inherently disinterested in politics. They always have to add something else onto it. That's why a lot of people who think that they are invested in political ideology or political movements unironically find themselves in drama-centered content consumption because it makes it more palatable. It makes it easier to watch when there's drama associated with content creators. You're doing it right now. You're basically proving what I'm talking about. But isn't that what you do? If you think that out of the 8 hours of political commentary that I do, it's mostly drama focused, you would be wrong. If that's truly, if this is something you're truly questioning, then the answer is no. I spend most of my political I rarely do this exact thing that I'm doing currently, okay, which is addressing another content creator's political opinions, or I actually stray away from that routinely. People try to get me to do it all the time. I don't like doing it because I think it's a distraction, and I think that it causes people to develop resentment towards me, and makes people less charitable to my approach to politics in general. So yeah, I regularly stay away, or to the best of my ability, even when I get fucking pulled into it, I try to stay away from this kind of commentary because I think it's inherently unproductive. Do you think this discourse was Asmon at this point is constructive? Because from what I see, they're essentially just drama baiting and you're taking the bait. I don't think you're going to change the minds of any of these Nazi pieces of shit. I give you that much, but you are farming this. We can find ways to meet each other in the middle. See, you're continuing to do this. You're continuing to do the thing that I'm explaining to you is inherently showing that you don't find politics to be all that entertaining or important to address. I was trying to have a conversation about Asmongold's politics and why I don't agree with them, and how I think it's unironically dangerous to, at the very least, irresponsible to just like present certain opinions as though they're like totally normal in an effort to be edgy. And you're still going, oh, well, you know, agree to disagree, or oh, you're just farming this for drama. Let's continue.
When I'm talking about something, that I do so in the most authentic and accurate way. Now, do mistakes happen? It was not written in Jewish, for example. Yeah, of course mistakes happen. But the goal is to be authentic, and the goal is to be accurate. And the issue here is that I actually think that Hassan should be thanking me for watching the Content Nuke. Because I think that I'm probably one of the only people that would actually give it a fair shake rather than just hop on the fuck Hassan.
To be fair, I'm not even going to deny this. I don't think he's wrong about that. I do agree with him that he probably is the only person that would watch that and still disagree with Ethan Klein out of like all of the other top content creators. Like XQC would probably watch it, very rarely disagree with Ethan, mostly just say like, oh, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy that Hassan is doing this stuff. Okay? So the point is, Asmongold and I do not have, personal hatred for one another. It's more so political disagreements.
Untrain and say that he should be banned for everything that he's ever done, which is something that I haven't done. So he should be saying thank you for me watching this and providing a...
I wouldn't say that, but he's literally called you a fucking terrorist and said you should be banned. Are you listening to yourself right now? Wake the fuck up, dipshit. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but virtually the entire video is designed to present that point of view, and everyone that watched it to reinstate that point of view. Not that it fucking worked, because I think most people understand, like, oh yeah, if you say anything mean about Israel, people will call you a fucking Islamist fundamentalist terrorist or whatever. But, you know,
a take on it that's accurate, balanced, and fair. But unfortunately, that's not.
I didn't watch his the nuke, and I didn't watch his rewatching of the nuke, but I do want to see if he actually called me a terrorist.
Not the case. We'll go back, we'll watch the rest of it. Wait a second.
Personal stuff, skip to 5740. He watched the video from the Holocaust Memorial channel to feel vindicated about the point.
Oops. How did that happen?
His chat kept coming in here to be like, you're anti-Semitic terrorism lover, you should be banned. Why aren't you banned yet? Meanwhile,
I mean, to be fair, Hassan, you have been very positive towards people who are on the national terror list. I mean, you...
Oh, man, damn. Well, thank you for the charitability, man. That's crazy. Bro, look at your screen. They're saying W based about Hitler. Like, what the fuck? I'm telling you, dude, any kind of controversy, this guy hits the fuck Hassan button. You aren't even involved in this. Yeah. Well, I think it is a pretty good way to... It's a pretty good smoke screen. Anytime someone yells at you, if I dare to say something about it, okay? And this is not just Asmongold. This is basically virtually every single fucking content creator on this goddamn platform that comes out and says something that's like genuinely dumb or fucking wrong, they can just turn around and be like, well, Hassan is fucking loves terrorism or anything like that. And everyone will just laser in on that and be like, yeah, he's right. Asmon's kind of base for this, regardless of what their fucking perspective is. Okay? That's it. So, yeah.
You have been. Like, this is a fact. Like, this isn't a debatable reality. You interviewed a terrorist, and
That is a debatable reality, I guess. Just like you're wrong to say they were writing in Jewish, you're wrong on this front as well. The person that I interviewed that I thought could potentially be a Houthi when I interviewed him, which at the time wasn't even a fucking part of the official terror watch list, by the way, okay, is not a part of the Ansar Allah movement. He is not a Houthi, okay? He revealed that information to me on the interview that I conducted. And not only that, but also numerous outlets interviewed him afterwards and even reached out to me. The New York Times literally reached out so they could get access to this person. So just so we're clear, I know that people just basically repeat this falsehood over and over and over again with the hopes that like no one will check them on this, but it's just not the case. You can't just be like, nah, this person's a terrorist. He looks like one, because I'm fucking assuming that every single person from Yemen is that has a gun and the highest gun per capita country after the United States of America is automatically a terrorist. Sorry, he's just a fucking terrorist. Okay, well, you're wrong. I don't know if anybody cares about the fucking truth, you know? Yeah. Even if Rashid was a part of the Ansar Allah movement, why would he even deny it? It's the fucking government. Exactly. That's what's so stupid about this. Anti-left pundits are gold medalists in bad faith arguments. Yeah.
I defended you interviewing the terrorist. I even defended you with that.
Okay. Thank you for defending me interviewing a terrorist.
I said it's okay because I want people to be able to talk to people.
Did you know he was not Houthi before accepting the interview? No, I didn't. I didn't. I thought he was. I thought he could be. I've explained this before. I defend on principle. Like, if I interviewed an actual member of the Ansar Allah movement, I would have, if I had the opportunity to do so at the time, I would have done it. I don't think people understand. I don't think people understand this. Like, the thing that annoys me, the thing that fucking annoys me about this process is not that people are saying like you defended or debated, or not even debated, but like you glazed up a terrorist or whatever. What's frustrating to me is that they're saying he's a fucking terrorist. They're just like they're falsely claiming that this person is a part of the Ansar Allah movement. If he was on the terror list, for example, would you have still interviewed him? Yes. Yes. Yeah, of course. Yes, 100%. Depending on who we're talking about on the terror watch list, the dynamic would, of course, be different. Okay? So here's what I mean by this. Fucking Nelson Mandela was on the terror watch list until 2008. If I had the opportunity to interview Nelson Mandela, it would be a positive interview. Do you see what I'm saying? Not every single person on the fucking terror watch list is actually a violent villain, all right? There's a difference between standable figures that are terrorists on the terror watch list, like Osama fucking bin Laden, okay, versus people like Nelson Mandela, for example. Right? But the issue here is, one, everything gets clipped out of context, so there's no real discourse, because I think a lot of people, even content creators, are not really invested in the context. They're not really invested in that. They're invested in, like, you know, lining up certain buttons that they can push at any given moment, being like, yeah, this fucking Hassan guy, he loves terrorism, right? It's just clip farming for the most part. That's it. Anyway, let's continue.
But I didn't see the whole thing, and I didn't realize you glazed him that hard, man. You didn't have to do that. I even tried to...
Once again, not a terrorist. Just wrong. Wrong on that front.
...to defend that. It's crazy.
Also, yeah, you know who else is a fucking terrorist? Luigi Mangione. If you think I wouldn't have a positive interview with Luigi Mangione, you're wrong, okay? Yeah, I don't think Asmongold is as charitable as I previously thought he was. I'm beginning to find out that maybe he is not as charitable. He has been. Fucking chat's going based yeah. Nazis. But hey, no, wait. That's what a lot of my naysayers wanted, though. They wanted someone.
Now, I'm not going to bring up the point if when Ethan was getting attacked in Hassan's chat, and then Hassan said he couldn't control everybody saying,
It's cool that I already addressed this earlier today by saying, yeah, if my fucking chat was calling Asmongold a Nazi, there's only so much moderation I can engage in when he's, you know, aligning, at least in this clip, ideologically with the position that the Nazis were presenting when they were engaging in the book burnings, considering that these like this medical research was un-German. Okay. Yeah. There's only so much moderation one can do. At a certain point, it turns into PR. It turns into sweeping. Okay. That's it. That was my point towards Ethan. And I was 100% correct on that point as well. And I think many people just like deliberately misunderstood the position that I was pointing to, which is I defended Ethan for quite some time, regularly, told my community to shut the fuck up, said it was unproductive to yell about Ethan, that Ethan was not your enemy. There is probably an hour-long compilation out there that you can find throughout the entire past year where I was like, I don't care. There's a real situation here with Israel. I don't care about like drama. I don't care about what Ethan is saying, and that he is not your enemy, that you should stop going after Ethan over and over again. Very charitable. Okay. Very charitable. And the position that I had when I had that conversation with Ethan was Ethan basically saying that the Jewish Voice for Peace people were capos, collaborators of the Nazis. Okay. When you say that, people are going to think you're a Zionist. There is nothing I can do about that. That's my position. And it's still my position. Just like if Asmongold keeps putting out videos where he's, you know, glazing Donald Trump and saying he's based, or watching videos about how immigrants are destroying the culture of Germany or destroying the culture of Poland and Western superiority must be maintained. And he agrees with that and goes, yeah, this guy's got great ideas. Yeah, I agree with him. Yeah, inevitably, people are going to assume that you agree with them. Like you said, you are agreeing with Nazis. So, of course, people are going to think you're a fucking Nazi. So that's my point. Just like people say, Hassan, you agree with Hamas, right? Why do people say that? Is it born out of nothing? No, it's born out of the reality that I agree with Palestinian emancipation, okay? Hamas is but a name only in this process, okay? That's why people say, Hassan, you're pro-terrorist. You're pro-terrorist over and over and over again. There's also untrue aspects of their commentary, like when they say I'm anti-Semitic, or if they say that I agree with the internal dynamic or the political ideology of anything beyond just Palestinian emancipation. Okay? There's a reason why people say this sort of stuff. They say it because I'm anti-Israel and I'm pro-Palestinian. Okay? I know that. When talking about the terror watch list a few weeks ago, you said something along the lines of that even the IRA were on the terror watch list. Do you think the IRA aren't terrorists? You don't agree with... I'm confused. Like when you say, do you think the IRA aren't terrorists? Do you agree with Irish reunification or not? Like, do you agree with British colonial occupation of Ireland? What the fuck kind of position is this? Terrorism is a political designation that is kept vague deliberately so that the colonial power or the more powerful party can just deny habeas corpus and basic human rights to the people that they've declared a part of the bad group. You know, that's my point. That's a British chatter 100%. Irish republicanism is seen as still a terrorist ideology here because of the bombings in England and the sectarianism against prods. I'm going to be real. I support the IRA, but you can't pretend they weren't a terror organization. No, that's my point. Terrorism as a designation is a political one. That's the whole point. Okay. The ANC were considered terrorists. They were fighting against apartheid South Africa. The IRA were considered terrorists. They were fighting against British colonial occupation. That's the entire point, okay? That's the entire reason for why this designation exists. If terrorism is simply doing violence to a civilian population, which is like what I do agree with, like as far as the designation, I agree. I think that the vague designation does not ever actually feature state violence, which it should. But I think at its base, if you want to consider something terrorism, you should consider it doing violence to a majority civilian population with the deliberate effort of making political change. If that is something that you consider terrorism, right? If that's what you consider terrorism, and that's, I think, as closest to the truth as you can get with respect to what terrorism is, okay, then the American government would be the arch terrorists of the planet. That's it. The reason why I consistently show you people, movements, groups that were considered terrorists by states, right? That we now understand, now that time has passed, is not actually, like, they weren't actually bad or wrong, and they had a moral position that was correct, is so you understand and interpret current instances of violence that are coming from non-state actors. Okay? That shit is food for people who feed on your content. You should talk about revolutionaries. I do. Yes. In the American Revolution, the founding fathers were considered terrorists by the British Empire. In Vietnam, the Viet Cong were considered terrorists as the American military was dumping napalm on Vietnamese villages. Okay? So that's it. Here, I'll end it on this note, this beautiful note that I think many, even reactionaries, agree with. Here, okay?
For us, smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. The Pentagon actually measures nuclear radiation in something they call sunshine units. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight?
Yeah, that's it. Asmon's chat thinks Carlin is right-wing and love him. Yeah, that's why I showed George Carlin. A lot of right-wing people think, you know, George Carlin is right-wing. Yeah. Palestinian hostages are called prisoners. Israeli hostages are called hostages. This designation still exists. PFT was shitting on Trump's Gaza plan. Yeah, I saw this.
Gaza that he's got going on.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Build a Trump property.
I'm gonna pee real quick.
In Gaza.
This is a great
turn
video.
Into the Riviera of the Mediterranean. I've heard a lot of ideas in my day. I'm a good listener. What can I say? I hear a lot of people with a lot of ideas. I try to listen to all of them. It might be the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't think that's an overstatement either. I feel like if we just take over Gaza and we build resort properties there, I don't see a way that doesn't end in nuclear war.
I don't understand why we even would want to do that.
Because it's real estate.
And
he's a fan of real estate. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of real estate too. Love land. They're not making more of it. Get in while you can. Just taking over the Gaza Strip, bad idea. Probably the worst idea in the history of ideas, I would say.
I don't think it's the worst idea, but I don't like it.
I would say this is probably the worst that I've heard.
Okay.
I don't see a way that this happens without some sort of nuclear exchange. It's not America first at all. That's like America last.
Agreed.
It is endorsing ethnic cleansing. Like literally that's what it's doing. So bad idea. And then building an American property there and just taking over, being like, fuck you. If you want people to get attacked on a daily basis, then I would say go ahead and build a property in the Gaza Strip and have it be controlled by America. That's a good way to do it.
I saw him say, like, we won't even have to pay for it. They'll just give it to us or something.
I think he's just riffing. I
think so,
I
too.
don't know that anybody in the White House was ready for him to say that. I don't know that Netanyahu was ready for him to say that. But
he definitely wasn't. Netanyahu was like, hey, yo, fam, that's my I got plans for that shit.
Yeah, that's our deal that we're doing right now. But Netanyahu, you can say what you want about him. The man is he's a skilled improver, and the one rule of improv is you say yes and you just roll with whatever the other person's riffing on. So when Trump was like, yeah, we'll put a Trump property there, it'll be ours, it'll be America, we'll take care of it. Yeah, Netanyahu was like, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds good, keep going. But yeah, he's just riffing. I don't know. I mean, but a lot of times his riffs turn into actual things. So
you're so fucking dumb. You're trying to say that the IR were only called terrorists because our government, yet they bomb my country over and over again, killing innocent people going to work, killed police doing their job, terrorist, plain and simple, moronic terrorist sympathizer. It's free real estate. It's not the worst idea, though. Relax with the emotional takes. I love that this guy, in literally the same minute, okay, when Donald Trump purchasing bombed out Gazan land and engaging in mass ethnic displacement, which is genocide, is good and based, and then turned around and said the IRA is a massive terrorist organization because they fucking killed cops. Okay? Oh, this is the guy who said, never mind. My bad. Why the fuck are you saying it's free real estate? Who cares about Trump? You tried to say the IRA isn't a terrorist organization. Bombing pubs in England is terrorism. No, I said that the designation for a terror organization is absolutely suitable for organizations that overwhelmingly target civilian populations. If you're talking about cops, that is not a part of the civilian population. Whether you agree to it or not doesn't matter. Cops in that regard, police in that regard, I'm not saying I agree with this, but police and military is enemy combatants. They're armed combatants, okay? Cops aren't military. I know cops aren't military, but cops still, in this regard, would be considered armed combatants. This is not even my designation, by the way. This is literally just like the official designation of terrorism. Ultimately, and I can't believe now we're going back to the IRA, the standard of violence is still designed by the colonial occupiers. And what the British forces did in Ireland was far more violent than the IRA's retaliation for what is seen, now at least, as a just cause. So I will not stand down from my defense. Okay? That's it. Resisting against colonial violence is always going to be a violent and sometimes ugly affair. Okay? The easiest way to ensure that ugliness and violence does not occur is by simply not fucking occupying another country. It's that simple. And yet people never seem to understand this. British people don't seem to understand this because historically they were the occupiers, and American people certainly don't understand this because, again, same principle, historically occupiers. Everyone else around the world gets it. Everyone else, every other nation on this planet, for the most part, have a very different story. A story of overcoming great odds. A story of national liberators fighting long and hard against some semblance of colonial entity, some colonial occupation. Do you understand? With the exception of some nations that don't. Nations that were historically dominant. Okay? Even America has a version of this against the British Empire. So hilariously, at least I can point to the fucking Revolutionary War for a second for Americans that kind of understand this dynamic. But that's it. You love watching terrorist freedom fighters on television and in movies, like real depictions, like Star Wars, directly created around promoting the Viet Cong. That was George Lucas's out and about intention at the time. Okay? The heroes in that story were the Viet Cong. At the time, America considered them to be terrorists. Same with Dune. Same with so many popular works. Okay? You love a good rebel story, but you fucking hate it when you are the evil empire in the real world. That's it. Just curious in which authority Asmongold, this Asmongold guy talks about politics. You don't need authority to be able to talk about politics. And that's sometimes a good thing. And in other instances, it's a bad thing. But there is no, you don't need authority to talk about politics. And as a matter of fact, many people don't have it. That chatter is wrong about UK cops not being armed. They just ain't carrying guns 24/7 like US cops, but they regularly deploy armed cops in Northern Ireland and other places. Yeah, I know. Yeah. You know who else was a terrorist? John Brown. Okay. Straight up. John Brown was a terrorist. Yeah. He was fighting a just cause. He was fighting for a just cause, a moral one, perhaps the most moral, the abolition of slavery. That's it. It's that simple. If you don't want violent retaliation, don't do chattel fucking slavery. Anyway, speaking of people, Luigi Mangione has released his first statement to the public since his arrest. Luigi Mangione says, I'm overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support. Powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions as mail has flooded MDC from across the country and around the globe. While it is impossible for me to reply to most letters, please know that I read everyone that I receive. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to write. I look forward to hearing more in the future.
Hi, everyone. It's Mike.
This channel has an amazing and really well-produced video on the Troubles and how the revolution remains. Ireland's unfinished revolution. Damn, the Horses channel is pretty good. They make bangers. I didn't know they did one on the Troubles.
The owner, operator, writer of the Horses creative project. Just want to do some table setting before this video. Spent the past 2 weeks making literally 20 different cuts of this video, and they were all blocked entirely from being viewed on YouTube. This is because the BBC owns the rights to most of the videos of the Irish Republican Army. The BBC vehemently does not want me to use that footage. The result is this version of my video, which is occasionally punctuated by these messages. If you want an uncensored director's cut, you can find that on the Horses Patreon. Which brings me to my next point. Moving forward, all Horses videos will be posted early, uncensored, and ad-free on Patreon before being put on YouTube. Patrons also get exclusive videos and a 20% off discount code for the Horses store. If you want to support my work, Patreon is a great way to do just that. Check it out at patreon.com/horsespt. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this video. When you think of the IRA, you likely imagine a wave of violence in 20th century Ireland. This is accurate in a sense, but it is a tiny, tiny snapshot of a much larger story. It is a story that spans 300 years. Even the popular term IRA is ambiguous to the point of near meaninglessness. There have been many, many different IRAs throughout this centuries-long conflict. Complex, polarizing, and intensely brutal, this is a story that will provoke very strong opinions. I think strong opinions are fine, but they should be informed. So, without further ado, this is the story of the Irish Republican Army. In the early 17th century, the British colonized a region in the northern part of Ireland called Ulster. Catholic Irish tenants and landlords were dispossessed of their lands. These properties were handed over to colonizing Protestants under the direction of King James I. And so began the harsh division of Protestants and Catholics in Ireland. This fighting went on for almost 2 centuries. It was bloody and brutal. As things continued, the English emerged quite victorious in their oppression and exploitation of the Irish people. But then, in 1791, a man named Wolfe Tone arrived to the picture. Tone, along with a group of fellow Irishmen, believed that the country should put aside its religious differences and unite against its common enemy, the invading British forces. Tone published a pamphlet advocating for this idea, titled An Argument on Behalf of the Catholics in Ireland. This pamphlet was enormously successful, and after its circulation, societies of United Irishmen began to appear in Ireland's largest cities. These societies sought a complete reform of the legislature, wanting instead a new system of governance based on political and religious liberty. Within Tone's efforts, we have perhaps the genesis of the first IRA. In 1795, he and some of his fellow United Irishmen proudly declared that they would never stop until they had driven the English from Ireland, until Ireland was a free country. In 1798, Tone led a revolt against the English establishment, which ended in defeat and his own death. His revolt had failed, and with it, England sought to stamp out the Irish independence movement with finality. They did this with the Act of Union in 1800, which destroyed the Irish Parliament entirely. Ireland could no longer legislate for itself in any way. Irish trade and industry were discriminated against and stifled in the interests of the British. Ireland was given no platform for self-advocacy. They had no voice in the new Parliament. Land was given to disinterested or entirely absent English landlords. The Catholic birth rate meant that Ireland's population was booming, but unmaintained land holdings, a lack of education, and ongoing sabotage of the Irish economy by the British meant that Ireland simply could not sustain its population. The now famous famine struck, killing 1 million Irish people. Another million emigrated, mainly to America. Indeed, this Irish-American presence would later prove invaluable to the yet-established IRA. Aside from...
Yeah, if you want to know what real fucking terror support looks like, there were literally American, Republican, right-wing, Irish politicians that were caught sending arms to the IRA. Okay? Just, yeah, I guess that was, maybe they misunderstood that the IRA was also Republican, but a different kind. Yeah, it's like the good version of sending money to Israel. Exactly. It's like the reverse.
Disasters. The Act of Union created new social and political currents within Ireland. One of these was a desire to destroy the Act through the use of armed force. There also arose a desire to politically repeal the Act and establish instead Home Rule, the idea of a self-governing Ireland. In a sort of dramatic but perhaps predictable irony, England's Act of Union had begun to sow the seeds of dissent. In opposition to Wolfe Tone's legacy, there arose a group of Protestant ruling class elites named the Orange Order. These people were monstrous. The order started shootings, riots, and looting in the name of maintaining English rule. In times of peace, the Orange Order prevented Catholics.
Yep. IRA aid unit in the Bronx linked to flow of arms. Dublin. A major dispute over the scale of American fundraising for the Irish Republican Army has pitted officials in the United States, Britain, and Ireland against a Bronx-based relief organization for Roman Catholic women and children in Ulster. This video just moved past the famine without even addressing that it was a genocidal intentional starvation. Yeah, I think they definitely didn't go hard enough.
Catholics from owning homes.
They basically said that the British didn't care about the Irish, which is true, but...
Or renting apartments. They advocated for anti-Catholic discrimination when it came to employment. They circulated anti-Catholic propaganda. This was not entirely out of a specific hatred for the Catholics. Rather, the order wanted to keep Protestant and Catholic working classes divided violently so that they could never unite and overthrow the British government. Indeed, the order and its affiliates maneuvered politically to stamp out even the slightest whisper of home rule within Parliament. There is truly a saga of information and events we could discuss here, but still we have not even arrived at the formation of the Irish Republican Army, and that is the topic of this video. So we will accelerate our narrative, keeping in mind that despite the order's best efforts, a desire for home rule was rising. In the early 1900s, the Irish proposed a number of home rule parliamentary efforts. They were all rejected, but in these efforts, a political party known as Sinn Féin came into being. Sinn Féin sought independence for Ireland, but wished to accomplish it through political maneuvering alone. They brought to English Parliament a proposal which would make Ireland economically, politically, and culturally independent. Their proposal did not violate any part of English rule. It was peaceful, it was reasonable, and it was laid out in perfect diplomatic clarity. However, it was swiftly rejected. Unionists, those who sought to maintain English rule in Ireland, took note of this rising tide. In 1911, a Unionist leader in the Irish province of Ulster named Edward Carson made a contingency plan. This plan laid out a provisional government that would take power in Ulster should home rule ever be instituted. Nearly 250,000 Northern Unionists signed an agreement to resist home rule by any means necessary. These men titled themselves the UVF, the Ulster Volunteer Force, and it was their sole aim to defeat home rule. In response, a group of nationalists, people who sought an independent Ireland, created Ógla na hÉireann, or the Irish Volunteer Force, as opposition to the Ulster Volunteer Force. The IVF would not engage immediately in armed combat against the UVF, but instead would remain on a sort of standby. Should the UVF ever act, the IVF would be there to defend Irish independence. But then World War I started, and in 1914, Parliament demanded that the nationalist IVF fight on England's side in the conflict. Many members obliged, but some 11,000 did not. They reasonably saw themselves as existing to defend and fight for Ireland, not England. It had become increasingly clear that Britain would ignore political maneuvering for home rule, but the new existence of the Unionist Ulster Volunteer Force now indicated that they were ready to defeat home rule with violence. On top,
England drew from many of its forces. Some of them learned a valuable lesson on the beaches of Gallipoli in World War I. A sad lesson, of course, that is still to this day talked about, which is weirdly enough not as negatively remembered as the British Empire forcing Anzac forces to go and die for no fucking reason on the beaches of Gallipoli as they invaded a foreign empire at the time, or a foreign nation. And yet, you know, it should be the case. They should be very mad at the British for pushing them to do that. Gallipoli is a never again attitude from Australians who were forced by the British? Yes, but that's what I thought too. That's how it's taught in Turkey too. And that's the general attitude of a lot of the Australians and New Zealanders that come to Turkey to visit Gallipoli, who have like a relatively positive opinion of Turkish people, and also simultaneously think that it was like the fault of the British. But they also, from what I understand, it's broadly the opposite, where they think like, no, those were brave veteran heroes and we're not mad at the English, you know?
On top of this, the Crown now demanded that Irish nationalists fight for England. This was simply unthinkable. So, fed up with the continued failure of peaceful action, the nationalist IVF planned an armed uprising to occur on Easter Monday, 1960. On that day, an assembly of Irish nationalists moved into Dublin. They occupied the General Post Office and other important government buildings. These men demanded a free Ireland, proclaiming essentially...
You gotta explain to Americans what the fuck you're talking about. During World War I, the British government forced the Anzac forces comprised of New Zealanders and Australians, to go and fight their battles, specifically in Gallipoli, Çanakkale, which is a part of Turkey. They stormed the beaches of Çanakkale, where the Ottoman forces, Turkish forces at the time, put up an incredibly strong defense and essentially murdered a shit ton. Well, not murdered, but like, you know, just ripped through it. It's like, it almost is like if D-Day was unsuccessful, except the Turks in this instance were not obviously Nazis or in the wrong. It was World War I. It was state against state violence, and the Turks were on the wrong side, let's say, the side that lost inevitably. A lesson that they luckily learned when they said they're not involving themselves in World War II. Turks in World War I were Nazis? Well, I guess that's true. Turks did do, at the time, the Armenian genocide. So there is that part of the equation. But in terms of like state versus state violence, it's not. World War I is a little bit different than World War II, I would say. Brave take? What do you mean? The way you say Armenia makes me cringe a little, lol. Wait, what? Why?
A secession from England. The IVF declared the Irish Republic as a sovereign independent state which would guarantee religious, civil, and equal rights to all of its citizens. Their statement also noted the invading English government had intentionally fostered a culture of religious differences in Ireland, but the Irish Republic would not support religious prosecution or sectarian conflict. They did not care if you were Protestant or Catholic. To the newly formed republic, you were just Irish. The IVF were over 1,000 strong, but England dispatched her own forces to crush the insurrection. One witness described the Easter Rising. The sound of artillery, of rifles, machine guns, grenades, did not cease even for a moment. From my window I saw a red flare that crept to the sky and stole over it and remained there, glaring. The smoke reached from the ground to the clouds, and I could see great red sparks go soaring to enormous heights, while always in the calm air, hour after hour, there was the buzzing and rattling and thudding of guns. But for the guns, silence. Hundreds died at the Easter Rising. The British quite effectively squashed the rebellion. But the event changed Ireland forever. It is impossible to overstate the significance of the Easter Rising within Irish and IRA history. The Rising created a firm, indelible stamp of Irish republicanism. 7 men had signed the IVF Declaration of Independence. England executed them without mercy. In one instance, they strapped a disabled man, unable to stand, into a chair so that he could be shot in the head. Each day, the British carried out a couple of executions, and news traveled around the country. There had always been a widespread but tepid disdain for the British. The excitement of the Easter Rising had galvanized and even transmuted this sentiment into something profoundly more aggressive. Thousands of young men across the nation were suddenly awakened to the Irish Republican cause. The Rising and all the Irish infighting had been about Britain's occupation, but also about how to solve the issue. Some people believed in political action, while others wanted to be more forceful. The violence of the Easter Rising and resulting executions destroyed almost any interest in parliamentary political reform. The peaceful approach had been wholly ineffective and was now, in the wake of those events, inappropriate. After the rebellion, everyone seemed to agree. Aggressive, violent action was the only way forward. The Irish Revolution had begun. Membership in Irish Republican groups now meant extremely violent anti-British activity in preparation for an upcoming war. Nationalists tried to obtain arms by raiding civilians as well as English armories. There were violent confrontations between nationalists and British soldiers. In response, the Crown likewise raided homes and imprisoned Republicans at an unprecedented rate. This, of course, only served to militarize and galvanize the Republican movement. Indeed, prisons became something of a breeding ground for anti-British sentiment. The British government and its forces was being increasingly seen as hostile. Sinn Féin saw huge success in the 1918 UK general election and set up an alternative parliament of their own in Dublin called the Dáil. This parliament was led by military men and formerly imprisoned Republicans. With this, nationalists now had a legitimate political body of their own. This parliament was far from a functioning autonomous government, but it lended legitimacy to Irish republicanism across the country. Its forming was essentially a sort of propaganda. In the years that followed, the paramilitary wing of this parliament were known as volunteers. Violence continued to escalate, and the volunteers became a larger, more necessary part of the Republican movement. The volunteers colloquially earned a new name, the Irish Republican Army, or the IRA. The war raged on in an endless cycle of newly heightened aggression and
I think it's important to understand the development of the IRA, the actions that they took, why they got to the places they got to, because it almost immediately reveals why the Irish has always historically been on the side of Palestinian emancipation. I don't know if this video will feature that at all, but you very quickly understand why Irish people are considered based or whatever the fuck by leftists in general, and also why Irish people have historically been against colonial occupation no matter where it is and have been on the right side of history. The funniest part about it is that when I found out that the Sons of Ulster or whatever, like the British that maintained the occupation in Ireland, also are notoriously on the wrong side of history. Like they literally will have all, if you're in Ireland and you see all of the bad flags in a row, the Confederate flag, the Israeli flag side by side with the British flag, just know that, you're in dangerous territory.
Retribution. The British could not overcome the widespread Republican support and would never grant Ireland independence anyways. Meanwhile, the Republicans were not remotely close to victory and would certainly run out of resources eventually. All signs were pointing towards a stalemate. Talks of a peace treaty began. Eventually, the groups produced the 1921 treaty. This partitioned Ireland into two distinct states, Northern Ireland and the Irish Free State.
Yeah, and the apartheid South African flag, they're just all historically on the wrong side of history. The Irish and the IRA historically on the right side of history. Those who oppose them historically on the wrong side of history.
It was made largely of Republican-led counties, but it had limited autonomy and it was to be included in the British Commonwealth. Furthermore, the Dáil would be destroyed and the country would be led...
And NA aren't? Do you think I would disagree with you in terms of North America, like the American government? No, I agree. We are the death dealers. We are usually often on the wrong side of history.
Led by a British governor.
With the very important and notable exception of World War II.
General. Altogether, the treaty was quite antithetical to the Republican cause.
Supporting IRA puts you on the right side of history. Lamau, that is one of the takes of all time. I am going to once again reiterate the position that I have maintained for a very long time. If you don't want any IRA activity, there's a very cool solution, okay? It's called Don't Occupy Ireland. That's what it's called. It's a very easy solution, okay? Oh, you don't like that the ANC is engaging in violent actions? Don't do an apartheid. Oh no, Hamas is a violent fundamentalist group. They're doing a lot of violence. It's like, don't do apartheid and genocide, because people will always, whatever you call them, people will always have the righteous moral goal of emancipation, no matter what. It is the most understandable human position. Okay? That's it. Yeah, he touched my boot while I was stepping on his throat. How violent. This is a shocking revelation for some who have almost always lived in the imperial core, but when you try to kill people, they don't like it. They resist it. They think, don't kill me. And at first they'll say, please don't kill me. And then inevitably, when they realize that you're going to keep killing them, they rise up in arms. They fight back. That's just how it is.
It provided neither a unified or liberated Ireland. Unsurprisingly, Republican opinion on the treaty was split. Some people saw it as a platform to move forward, while others deemed it a surrender. This division led to a brief civil war within the Free Irish State between anti-treaty and pro-treaty citizens. But backed largely by the British Crown and its resources, the pro-treaty side defeated the Republicans without too much of an issue. By 1924, the Civil War was over, and each of the new Irelands existed in a very tepid sort of peace. Here we will again accelerate our story to the next major world event, World War II. During the war, the IRA repeatedly declared their dedication to Irish independence. The treaty certainly had not left them satisfied. But with World War II, the IRA entered into a period that was basically marked by failure. The IRA engaged in brutal anti-British campaigns in both Northern and Southern Ireland, but they were largely ineffectual. They were haphazard, disorganized, and they created very little new momentum for republicanism within Ireland. The IRA also engaged with the British abroad during this time. In 1938, IRA leaders were dispatched to high-profile British areas, including Liverpool, Manchester, and London. They brought with them suitcases full of bomb-making supplies. The IRA began a bombing campaign in these major city centers. The campaign's intended targets were government property rather than human life. But still, one man died in a Manchester bombing. 5 were killed in an incident in Coventry. 55 others were injured during the campaign. 2 IRA members were hanged in connection with the campaign before it ended quite unceremoniously. It was another failure described by one IRA sympathizer as, quote, appallingly ill-conceived. World War II also saw the IRA enter its most troubling era, a sort of alliance with the Nazi Party in Germany. Irish Republicans had virtually nothing ideologically in common with the Nazis, but their practical interests did align. The Germans wanted to hurt the English, and so did the IRA. The IRA didn't really mince words either, saying in a 1940 statement, "Today England is locked in a life-and-death struggle with Germany and Italy. The lesson of history is plain. England's enemy is Ireland's ally." So to be clear, it was anti-Britishness that fueled the IRA's decision rather than any actual sympathy with Nazi Germany. However, as Richard English points out in his book Armed Struggle, the fact remains. The IRA opted for alliance rather than opposition to what was perhaps history's most horrifically evil regime. German agents traveled to Ireland to make contact with the IRA. The two groups made
That is the wrong side of history, to be fair.
plans for the IRA to assist Germany through espionage against the British. However, even these plans amounted to nothing at all and were characteristic of the IRA's continually failing efforts surrounding World War II. Really, the IRA left World War II with very little in terms of morale or momentum. Throughout the post-war period, the organization racked up casualties through poorly organized bombing.
By the way, there were plenty of other countries that did similar versions of this against the USSR at the time as well. It still doesn't make it appropriate or right. Yes, Finland.
Efforts while achieving almost nothing in terms of their Republican goals. But still, they were looking onwards towards their next major military operation. Being that Northern Ireland had remained under British rule, that area was the focus of the IRA's continued efforts. For years, they had been interested in a bombing campaign along the border between the two Irelands, and in 1956, they finally put this idea into action as Operation Harvest. The IRA would attack military installations, communications bases, and government property along the border with the goal of paralyzing Northern Ireland. 4 groups of IRA men were set up to attack northern border areas, while 20 organizers were dispatched to train more volunteers. In December of 1956, the IRA detonated a bomb in Derry, which destroyed the town's BBC transmitter. Immediately thereafter, the IRA raided a British Army barracks, though this was quite unsuccessful. In response to these incidents, Northern Ireland's Prime Minister introduced internment, the process of jailing Republicans without trial. Conditions in the jails likewise were troubling. According to one prisoner, IRA members were kept in solitary confinement for 15 hours through the week and 20 hours on Sundays. In response to internment, IRA attacks spread. In that same month, 4 bombs exploded outside of a police station. 2 weeks later, the IRA attacked another police station in the same county. The following year, bombs exploded at a police sergeant's house, severing both of his legs and eventually killing him. But still, the IRA's efforts were disorganized and ineffective. The result was bloodshed rather than political change. The violence did little to rally IRA sympathizers to the cause. Meanwhile, there just wasn't widespread support or sympathy for the IRA in Northern Ireland. In 1962, the IRA halted their border campaign, citing negative public sentiment in the North. Like most of their efforts surrounding World War II, this campaign had failed. Indeed, this failure all but ruined the IRA. They had, during the campaign, killed a number of their own soldiers. Public perception was dismal. At best, the IRA was now a tired, weak organization. At worst, it was just irrelevant. But soon, social change would come to Ireland, and the IRA would rise, like never before. With the IRA in a woeful state, a change of leadership was in order. So a man named Cathal Golding was assigned as its new chief of staff. Golding was a near-iconic figure. He was attractive, charming, and eccentric. The radical ideas he held were packaged up in a rather enjoyable aesthetic experience. Golding brought with him a significant ideological shift. For one thing, while he did endorse violence when necessary, Golding did not see violence as the Route 1 path to achieving the IRA's goals. Rather, he wished to embark on a more political quest. Cathal was a pretty hardline Marxist. His understanding of the Irish Republican movement was class-based, saying, "The class that always plays the leading role in any national liberation struggle is the working class. the people of no property, the landless people, the industrial workers in the city, and the very small peasant farmer. These are the people who have traditionally supported the national liberation movements in Ireland all through the centuries. Rich people were never interested in national liberation. They are already liberated. These were not new ideas to the IRA, who had traditionally been vaguely socialist in nature. Cathal was continuously unapologetic about his leftist sensibilities as he pushed the organization further in this direction. We have been accused of
Beginning to feel like these guys are some real radical terrorists. I thought they were just like liberal, I'm pro-Democratic Party kind of guys. What's happening here? I don't really like what they're talking about. Okay, hold on now.
Of being to the left, but if that means seeking an end to partition, to the exploitation of our people, and placing them in the position of masters of their destiny rather than slaves of a capitalist economy, then we are to the left. Under his leadership, the IRA shifted its efforts from military training to political action. Golding's council altered Sinn Féin's constitution to include a socialist republic as the final goal of the IRA. Around this time, radical Republican groups began to appear across Ireland. These groups were activist organizations that engaged in debate, discussion, and public education. Called the Wolf Tone Societies, they built on past socialist sympathies within the IRA to move the organization forward into a new era. Cathal was influenced by and involved with the Wolf Tone Societies. He believed that the partitioning of Ireland was a result of artificial prejudice. The Protestant Anglican government encouraged division between Catholics and Protestants so that the country could not unite and overcome Britain. The route to change for Golding was then in civil rights, the uniting of working-class Protestants and Catholics. One IRA leader described this new strategy well when he asked, "How can unionism possibly survive when Protestant and Catholic are no longer at one another's throats, when discrimination has been dealt a body blow?" And so, in 1966, the Wolf Tone Societies and their IRA members began a civil rights campaign in Northern Ireland to end discrimination against Catholics. These societies believed they could unify the working classes of Protestants and Catholics. The campaign spread quickly, and there emerged a genuine civil rights movement, one far beyond anything the IRA was controlling or leading. Unfortunately, this movement did not cause unification, quite the opposite. Catholics had been experiencing discrimination for centuries, so the demand for equality mostly came as a demand for Protestants to change their ways rather than one of national unity or mutual action. Loyalists and Protestants saw the movement as a Catholic Republican one that was attacking their identity, so it only caused more division within Ireland. This all came to a tipping point on October 5th in Derry. Catholics marched demanding equal treatment in housing and employment. The British police force used water cannons and batons to violently put down the demonstration.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. JFK said that, by the way. Another Catholic man.
Violent attack against civil rights activists was seen not just around Ireland, but around the world. The images were striking. There were uniformed police officers violently brutalizing peaceful demonstrators to deny the most basic human rights. This day is typically considered the beginning of the Troubles. It would be false to say the IRA caused the Troubles, but certainly they fueled the civil rights movement, which spun out of control and did start the conflict. It was and is the most painful sort of irony. In their genuine, well-intentioned efforts to unify the country, the IRA had fractured it like never before. For months, there emerged a pattern of police on Catholic violence throughout major Irish cities. The police could no longer contain the chaos and requested British troops be deployed to Ireland. Indeed, they were. During a bloody month of August, the IRA clashed with British forces time and time again. Catholic families were forced from their homes by Protestants, with the police...
I only see police officers doing their jobs. What? I don't understand. I only see police officers just bravely doing their jobs against horrible odds here.
Conspicuously absent. In one incident, 4 Catholics, one of whom was a 9-year-old boy, were shot dead by British forces.
I mean, as an American, that's the job of the police, to be fair. That is what the police does.
Members bombed police stations and returned fire, but they were up against a force that was profoundly more capable than themselves. Because the IRA had largely shifted their focus to political action, they were unable to meet the royal forces with adequate opposition. So, Catholics came to some conclusions. The royal police and the loyalists were now violent aggressors. As such, the Catholics could only be defended through violent force. In times past, this had been the duty of the IRA, but the IRA was now largely a political organization incapable of providing sufficient protection. On August 24th, Irish Republicans held a secret meeting in Belfast. Angered by the IRA's movement towards nonviolent politics, these men sought a return to the traditional militaristic approach. The dissidents formed a new organization called the Provisional IRA. From here on out, the Provisional IRA would become the premier group of militant Republicans, far outshining the old IRA. The Provos were dedicated to a unified Irish Republic. In this effort, the first step was driving the British out of Ireland through the means of force. It has been alleged that the Provisional IRA were hooligans or thugs, young men with nothing better to do who sought glory instead of any political cause. This could not be further from the truth. The Provisional IRA's most founding members came from families with long-standing ties to the previous IRA. They were Catholic young men, typically from working-class backgrounds including builders, farmers, clerks, and industrial apprentices. Certainly these men were not prosperous titans, but they were not despondent. Most IRA members had solid, reliable jobs. They were productive members of society. Authorities have often attempted to paint the IRA as criminals, but records and independent studies indicate Provos had no particular inclination towards crime. Certainly many had been to jail, but there was no omnipresent lineage of career criminality. Instead, what they had in common was first-hand experience with either repression or outright violence committed by British loyalists. Indeed, IRA recruitment consistently rose with significant political events. The story of the Provisional IRA is not one of crime, but of political struggle. The IRA were not profiteers. The material rewards that membership produced, even to its highest-ranking officials, were meager at the very best. Accounts have shown that IRA members who attempted to enrich themselves from the conflict were exiled. Furthermore, the Provisional IRA famously did not do drugs, here referring to trafficking or distribution as a means of income. Lastly, there has been no evidence of widespread mental abnormality in the Provisional IRA. Despite regular attempts to paint members as crazed fanatics, this simply is not the case. In a formal study of political and non-political murderers within Northern Ireland, the conclusion was that political murderers, IRA members, were more psychologically stable than their counterparts. By all accounts, IRA members were remarkably normal. Certainly the Provisional IRA was not an organization of saints, but they were broadly regular people, not thugs, mafiosos, or glory hunters. It's important to recognize this reality so as not to erroneously diminish or assign their struggle with ulterior motives. The vast majority of the IRA were simply true believers motivated by a genuine political struggle. And so we get to the philosophy of the IRA. The reason for the old IRA's being was to ensure that nationalists in Ireland would never be left defenseless. The new Provisional IRA likewise saw themselves as defenders, entirely necessary due to the presence of an invading force. In this pursuit, they would use violence as required to protect the Catholic population. The Provos also had a spiritual power. There was a culture of hopelessness amongst Catholics at the time, and this new IRA now provided a prideful resistance. They represented a real opportunity for Catholics to defend themselves. Perhaps even more accurately, the Provos symbolized retaliation. They would hit anyone who hit them. That was a core tenet of Provisional IRA philosophy. This included the British Army, but also the Irish police or individual Protestants. The Provos, on paper, did not believe in sectarian conflict. They didn't care if you were Catholic or Protestant. But in practice, this conflict became a necessary duty. One IRA leader said in 1971, "We will attack Protestants only if they attacked Catholics, and we would do this simply because the Catholics would have no one else to defend them." Also core to the Provisional IRA was an idea of anti-imperialism. Britain had colonized Ireland and denied the country its most basic right to self-governance. This was foundationally, ethically wrong, and it was on this idea that the old IRA had been built. History had suggested that anti-colonialism was generally the correct viewpoint. The Provisional IRA saw themselves as inheriting that historical reality. The organization fundamentally rejected.
One of the most important aspects of terrorism that people have to contend with, that people have to understand, is that when I say the occupier sets the standard of violence, it's not just simply something that I'm mentioning here. Terrorism is an act of desperation in most circumstances. Okay? I don't mean like the colonial enterprise that ISIS engages in, right? I mean terrorism like the ANC or the Algerian defense or the IRA in this circumstance. Like those acts of terrorism are done towards an infinitely more powerful enemy that is dominating every facet of your existence. It is only conducted once all of the other non-violent options are exhausted. People turn around and claim, like, why didn't they peacefully protest or whatever? But the reality of the matter is that peaceful protest has effectively been neutered, rendered useless. Okay? Nobody wants to take up arms against others. I mean, it's uncomfortable, it's violent, it sucks. Your standard of living has to get to such a horrible position for you to basically engage in this kind of violence. Yes, the French resistance during World War II was terrorism. Exactly. Like, who the fuck wants to forfeit their life? Who wants to go out and not live comfortably? You know what I mean? Everyone wants to live comfortably. You only are pushed to that point.
Rejected conventional political maneuvering. Instead, they were a militant force. This had practical strategic implications. Through violence, the Provisional IRA would make it more costly for Britain to remain in Ireland than to let the country be free. This was basically the core around which their entire strategy existed. With that said, the Provos were not entirely apolitical. In 1971, the Provisional IRA released a plan for Ireland that demanded not only British withdrawal, but a fundamental restructuring of Ireland's political institutions. They also released proposals for a more immediate, actionable withdrawal of British troops based on a number of Provo stipulations. The Provisionals also committed themselves to an Irish socialist republic with democracy at its heart. They were broadly anti-capitalist, believing that capitalist economies created inequality. Although hard leftists, the Provos distanced themselves from communist organizations. They noted that the Soviet system had resulted in a denial of freedoms and basic human rights. The Provisionals were a largely Catholic organization, and so many of its members held quite conservative political beliefs. These were often at odds with the group's stated leftist sensibilities. The result was a sort of unhappy, inconvenient coexistence of these two ideologies, which occasionally reared its head. In one instance, a Catholic conservative IRA member refused to supply contraceptives to the organization, despite the IRA's insistence that they could be used in bomb making. All of this existed within a tightly defined structure. The Provos were led by a 7-person Army Council, who were chosen by a 12-person Army Executive, who was in turn elected by a General Army Convention. There was also Sinn Féin, which now existed as the Provos' political counterpart. These two organizations were separate. The Provisional IRA was a military endeavor, where Sinn Féin was a political party, but membership between the two saw significant overlap. The Provisional IRA was far outgunned by the British, who were more capable in almost every technical capacity. So the Republicans engaged exclusively in urban guerrilla warfare. They famously brought the concept of the car bomb into the zeitgeist. IRA violence took many other forms too. These included assassinations, shooting sprees, kneecappings, sniper fire, riots, and ambushes. Of course, to do any of this, the organization needed resources, mainly weapons and financing. For both of these things, the IRA often looked abroad, to the USA. This turned out to be, perhaps unsurprisingly, a good decision. A man named George Harrison was born in Ireland in 1915. During his 20-odd years of living in Ireland, Harrison had indeed come to sympathize with the left-wing elements of the Republican movement, and that never quite slowed down. In 1938, he emigrated to America, where he held a passion for 3 things: socialism, Irish republicanism, and firearms. As a trade union activist, Harrison also had access to a network of international trading infrastructures. Harrison and a few of his comrades in America entered into a trade agreement with the IRA. They would purchase guns from one of their contacts and then ship the weapons to Ireland. Most notably, Harrison moved hundreds of light, powerful, and collapsible Armalite rifles into the hands of the IRA. These specific guns would later become a sort of icon of armed Irish republicanism.
Oh yeah.
After a couple years' work by Harrison and other gun smugglers, the IRA was remarkably well equipped. Harrison expressed only pride, later saying, "I sent thousands of guns to Ireland, and I'd do it again tomorrow. I'm only sorry I didn't send more." Along with guns, America provided the Provisional IRA with a great supply of money. A group called NORAID, the Irish Northern Aid Committee in New York, was established to raise funds for the Provos, and they did that quite effectively. The Irish-American population was more than happy to chip in. Of course, financing also came from within Ireland. The Provisional IRA ran a number of legitimate businesses, including taxi services, brothels, pubs, and security firms. These were all strictly clandestine in nature, so today details are elusive. The provost also had links to a number of less than savory income sources. Think bank robberies, hostage payments, heists, and extortion rackets. Again though, the IRA's accounting is not now, nor has it ever been, an open book. So all of this must be assigned to the world of rumor, theory, and speculation. Here I think the phrase show don't tell is coming to mind. So let's look at how the provisional IRA put all of this theory into practice. In the summer of 1970, Protestant loyalists paraded through a Catholic area of Belfast. This was certainly meant as provocation, and it worked. A fight broke out, which resulted in the IRA fatally shooting 3 Protestants. News traveled to another area in Belfast called Short Strand. There, Catholics lived in a ghetto, dangerously close to Protestants. Anticipating trouble, the IRA took up arms in preparation for a possible Protestant attack in Short Strand. Sure enough, Protestants threw bombs at a Catholic church. IRA soldiers defended the church in a 5-hour gunfight. Although they took casualties, the IRA successfully fought off the Protestant attackers. This success showed the capability and power of this new provisional IRA. It was a vindication of the schism and would go down in IRA history as an iconic event. These killings resulted in the Falls Curfew, during which British troops raided the homes of Republicans in search of weaponry. They were successful insofar as they found quite a few weapons, but they also heightened and cemented provost support throughout Belfast. The curfew caused a massive swell in IRA recruitment, and so the provosts were ready for their first full-scale offensive. To kick things off, the IRA shot and killed 2 British soldiers in Belfast. The British Army soon returned fire, and the IRA did the same. The British increased their presence in Republican areas where they harassed and intimidated Catholics. And so once again, loyalist attempts to tamp down republicanism did just the opposite. The provisional IRA began one of their first bombing campaigns in a drastic escalation of violence. The British Army's next move was yet another blunder. Under the name Operation Demetrius, loyalists arrested and imprisoned 342 Catholics, all without trial. But as it turned out, the British had received wildly inaccurate intelligence reports. Of these 342 prisoners, under 100 were at all affiliated with Republican efforts. Still, over 200 of the arrested men were kept in jails around Belfast. Internment without trial went on, and internees were horrifically abused in jails. They were denied sleep, starved.
Does that remind you of anything? Like in modern society?
Dehydrated and tortured. This whole issue was well publicized in Catholic circles, and once again the British had strengthened resistance to their own presence. With belief and enlistment soaring, the provisional IRA were now in a full-scale war against the British-commanded Irish Army. In 1971, the Army killed 9 IRA members and 33 civilians. The IRA, meanwhile, killed 56 members of the opposition. The chaos was indeed what the provosts wanted. Remember, it was their aim to create an Ireland that was unsustainable for British rule. In 1972, the IRA was feeling immensely confident. They even proclaimed that England was on her knees and that victory would come soon. Of course, this did not happen. Quite the opposite. One of the Trouble's deadliest days was just ahead. The Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association organized a march against internment in Derry. Parades, processions, and marches had been banned for some time, but the association defiantly went on. Northern police set up barricades so that marchers could not go into the city center. Soldiers from the notoriously brutal Parachute Regiment attended, armed and quite ready for conflict. Derry was a hotbed for fighting, which had recently resulted in the death of several British soldiers. But even within the British Army itself, the Parachute Regiment was considered thuggish and reckless. They were basically attack dogs. Their presence at the march was controversial, with some army leaders confused why such an aggressive unit had been deployed. Marchers bypassed the barricades and proceeded to throw stones at the British soldiers. In response, the Parachute Regiment used water cannons and tear gas in an attempt to contain the crowd. A riot broke out, and the parachutes unloaded their rifles into the crowd. Some protesters were shot while fleeing, others while helping the injured. The parachutes killed 14 people that day, all unarmed civilians. The day would go down in history as Bloody Sunday. It was a defining day in the Troubles. This was a watershed moment for the Provisional IRA and for Republican efforts at large. The city reeled with anger. Bloody Sunday also attracted international attention. The IRA received global support for its militant republicanism, and internally, the organization abandoned entirely the idea of peaceful change. That summer, the IRA's violence reached its ascendancy. Car bombs were rampant around Belfast and Derry. Hundreds died throughout the country. The IRA likewise planted car bombs throughout London, ultimately killing 1 person and injuring 243 others. Even jails were chaotic. In 1973, leading provosts escaped from a Dublin prison via helicopter. The fighting roared on throughout the decade. In May of 1974, loyalists, allegedly assisted by British police, detonated bombs throughout Dublin. The British Army fatally shot a mentally disabled Catholic man for seemingly no reason. The IRA detonated 2 bombs without warning in crowded English pubs. Not long after, they repeated the attack in Birmingham, blowing up 2 more pubs within moments of each other. Upon arriving to the scene, an ambulance worker later remarked that it was, quote, like a slaughterhouse. The years that followed saw massacre after massacre, retaliation after retaliation. Although optimistic, the IRA came to a stark realization. In the late 1970s, the IRA explicitly set out for a so-called long war. Their fight would not be over in weeks or months.
I think considering that all of this happened and not that long ago, and then you look back, or you look at the situation now between England and Ireland, you understand why I say that a peaceful and political solution through diplomacy is always possible. And not only that, but also on top of that is inevitable throughout history. The only thing that you dictate in this process is how much more unnecessary death and destruction has to take place. Do you understand? It's that simple. All right. Think of how horrific and bloody an affair this was, the Troubles. And it wasn't that long ago, and now, I don't know, man, that seems a bit reductive. That's ridiculous. I'm simply stating this for all of the people that claim that there is no peaceful outcome in Gaza that is possible.
Months, but perhaps years or even decades. To accommodate this reality, the provosts reorganized. In their new structure, leadership would be transferred to northern comrades. This was sensible enough. The north was the hotbed for the conflict. The IRA also began focusing on specialization, wherein individuals would be dedicated as snipers, bombers, or spies and have no knowledge of any other IRA movement. This would ensure increased security around critical intelligence. The provost also published the Green Book. This manual contained the aims and objectives of the IRA. Within its pages, the Green Book affirms the IRA as a continuation of the 1916 Republican Parliament, and so it framed the movement as not something fleeting, but something with a storied past and a long-term presence within Ireland. During the late 70s, the provosts also became significantly more ambitious with their targets. They attempted to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II with a bomb when she visited Ireland. The IRA assassinated the...
You're undermining resistance. There is a peaceful outcome, but the resistance to oppression is necessary. When have I ever undermined the resistance? I'm literally watching a pro-IRA video after spending the past 2 hours talking about how the designation of terrorism is ridiculous and oftentimes applied falsely to present those who have a moral cause, a cause that is just, whether it be Palestinian emancipation or Irish unification, against horrendous amounts of violence that the colonial subjects are put through. There's never been a moment where I've said that that is not a necessity. I'm simply stating the reality that the colonial entity in this process is what dictates the terms of the violence or whether or not violence will be an inevitability. You claim there will be peace, but demanding immediate peace as a dog whistle to end resistance is used consistently to do so? Dude, are you on fucking crack? What are you talking about? Virtually everyone on this goddamn website, when you move like 3 steps away from this community, call me a fucking radical Islamist fundamentalist terrorist, and you're over here being like, you're not sufficiently pro-Palestine. Shut the fuck up, woke of the day. Part of the reason why we're talking about this is literally because I am unconditionally pro-Palestine. The fuck? Asking for peace is a colonialist dog whistle. Yeah, dude. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing colonialist dog whistles. Yeah. Remember when I was like saying stuff like, if Hamas let down their arms, then everyone could be free. Remember when I said that? Famously. If the IRA let down its arms, then everyone could be free. Is what I'm saying. That's my take. I hope that's your primary takeaway from my commentary over this video.
The manager of a DuPont chemical factory, saying British industrialists were legitimate targets because they exploited the Irish working class. Another Republican group, the INLA, killed British Conservative Party leader Ari Neave in a car bombing. It was an impressive get, but the IRA trumped it in the following year. Louis Mountbatten was a high-ranking British statesman, viceroy, and he was the cousin of the Queen herself. the IRA planted a bomb on his boat, killing him along with 3 others. That same day, IRA bombs also killed 18 British soldiers. The fact remained, though, the IRA was not anywhere near victory, so republicanism in Ireland began to examine once again political maneuvering. The IRA's stance had always been quite clear. They were a military organization that would not engage with or recognize any political body other than one of a united Ireland. However, the IRA also recognized that the electoral process could work alongside its armed struggle. Political action did not need to replace militarism. So the IRA began to espouse a combination of these things. It would be a ballot paper in one hand and an Armalite in the other, as one prominent IRA leader said. And yet another war was beginning on an entirely new front: the prisons. Imprisonment had become part of the IRA experience. Jails were full of Republicans, but up until this point, they were considered political prisoners. They were soldiers within a legitimate political struggle. By definition, these people were not criminals. This meant IRA prisoners were granted special circumstances in jail. They were allowed extra visits, regular food packages, and the right to wear their own clothes rather than prison uniforms. But the English thought this legitimized the IRA struggle. By holding IRA members as political prisoners, Republicans were seen as fighting for their freedom against an occupying force. So the British changed policy. The British sought to criminalize the IRA, hoping this would cast them as basically terrorists within public perception. The British removed IRA prisoners' political status and relocated them to jail cells called H-blocks. The IRA prison war could be its own essay, its own documentary, so unfortunately we will need to make some generalizations here. Suffice to say, the treatment experienced within the H-blocks was horrific. Prisoners were physically and mentally abused. The cells were infested with cockroaches and mice. Scabies ran rampant among Republican prisoners. A later report concluded that H-block treatment, quote, constituted cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment within the UN General Assembly's 1975 definition of torture. And indeed, in 1978, the British government would be found guilty of, quote, cruel, degrading, and inhuman treatment by the European Court of Human Rights. But at the time, IRA members showed admirable insubordination. They began a series of prison strikes.
Remember, a tale as old as time itself. You can make anything illegal, okay? Like, no shit. What you have to do is scratch beneath the surface to understand whether or not that is a just law, or one that is specifically designed to reassert colonial rule. If you've learned anything from your history textbooks, you know that history is riddled with great powers consistently implementing horrifying rules, unjustifiable rules, in an effort to criminalize, like in Nazi Germany, being Jewish, or defending or sheltering Jews, or in the antebellum South, in the South during time of chattel slavery, criminalizing the existence of free black men and sheltering or trying to liberate black men that were considered slaves. Okay? If you want a more modern version of this, it's not just Israel. Even in the United States of America, look at the designation and criminal status that we automatically apply to migrants, even documented migrants, not just undocumented migrants. So just, remember that.
Republicans refused to wear prison uniforms, so the British forced the IRA to live naked in jail. In response, IRA prisoners started a no-wash policy, which was just as horrifically grimy as the name implies. As a result, these men lived in cells coated in urine and feces and infested with maggots. Other prisoners began now famous hunger strikes. Eventually, 10 prisoners starved to death, among them the now famous Bobby Sands. Members outside of the prisons often disapproved of the strikes or took only a reserved interest in them. Republicanism was beginning to shift in a more political direction, and many thought these strikes would distract from that change. In fact, the opposite proved to be true. The prison wars attracted international attention and embarrassment to English Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She was said to have Irish blood on her hands. Within Ireland, the strikes galvanized support for the Republican cause, especially amongst those who had hitherto remained quite ambivalent. The political counterpart to the IRA, Sinn Féin, enjoyed a swell of membership, legitimization, and forward progress on the backs of the strikes. The party became even more closely interwoven with the IRA, and within this context, the Republican movement went into a sort of political maturation. For the IRA, this happened largely within prison walls. prisoners began to read and study the theories of Marx and Lenin, which provided a sort of framework for IRA political action. They also studied the Irish language and Irish history, which enabled members to strengthen their own political and cultural identities. Self-education became a core tenet of the IRA, and many members left jail more learned than their militant brothers who had remained in the field. Meanwhile, Sinn Féin abandoned the policy of election abstentionism. They then had modest success in elections and earned a small foothold in the formal governments of both Northern and Southern Ireland. However, this did not mean that violence was off the table.
W reading.
Around this time, one notable IRA leader said, if Sinn Féin were to win every election it contested, it would still not get an agreement on British withdrawal. We recognize that only disciplined revolutionary armed struggle by the IRA will end British rule. In 1983, the
See, these are the motherfuckers that read too much, okay? I mean, they weren't wrong, but...
IRA shot and killed a Unionist lecturer at Queen's University in Belfast. The next year, they attacked a Conservative Party conference in Brighton. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who was present at the conference, was the primary target. The IRA planted a Semtex bomb at the...
Remember, we went to the site of the bombing when I was in Brighton? Both a beautiful, beautiful sight to behold, but also a unfortunate tragedy that they missed.
The conference hotel set to explode during the event. The bomb detonated and killed 5 conference members, but Thatcher escaped alive. In fact, the IRA only expanded its bombing targets during this time. In an announcement, the group declared that any contractors, builders, or buildings associated with the Royal Police Force were now legitimate targets. The killing raged on, taking the lives of not only Unionists, but IRA members themselves. The IRA mistakenly killed a number of Protestant civilians, though this proved to be a disastrous misstep. It heightened tensions and did very little to help the Republican cause amongst Protestant Irish. Increasingly, there was a feeling that the IRA was targeting Protestants, whether they were Unionists or not. Repeated, accidental civilian death ensured that, for all practical purposes, no one was safe. Combine this with a decreasing efficacy of IRA violence, and the tide was turning against militant republicanism in the late 80s. The use of force seemed unable to produce a unified Ireland, so the Republican movement continued to take a more political shape. After the Conservative MP Ian Gow was killed by the IRA in 1990, the Loyalist side was also losing their faith in their ability to secure military victory, and so the British government sent a representative to meet with Sinn Féin in an effort to begin peace talks. This was not anything entirely new, but the amount of violence was now appearing untenable to both sides of the conflict. The result was a Christmas ceasefire at the end of 1990. The IRA halted violent action, but still left it as an option. Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams said, "When you have an occupation force, Sinn Féin believes people have the right to engage in armed resistance."
Around this stage, I was in a car that was hit with a firebomb. That's crazy. You want to see this, but Gerry Adams is the man behind the curtain calling for the hunger strikes to continue, knowing people would die, but he denies all association. This denial essentially ate other IRA members alive and drove them insane in anonymity after the troubles.
That is our political opinion. So the ceasefire was delicate, if nothing else. But in 1991, Adams furthered peace talks, expressing that he was open to a political solution. "We believe that peace can be achieved. We are prepared to take political risks. We are prepared to give and take. We are committed to establishing a peace process." These talks dragged on for years, but it became clear that the British government had perhaps dastardly intentions. As a condition for further dialogue, the British demanded a surrender from the IRA. This incredible demand destroyed all progress. And so the early 90s saw more violence from the IRA as they continued to bomb and assassinate key targets. Despite this, Sinn Féin was still engaging in a long, arduous political strategy. And in 1994, the IRA released a statement that shocked the world. Recognizing the potential of the current situation, and in order to enhance the democratic peace process and underline our definitive commitment to its success, the leadership of Ogla Naharan have decided that as of midnight, Wednesday, 31st August, there will be a complete cessation of military operations. All our units have been instructed accordingly. This was an historic moment. In September of that same year, the UK lifted its ban on Sinn Féin broadcasting, which had so far stifled the spread of pro-Vo messaging. In October, the Loyalist military announced they too would halt combat operations within Ireland. But why? Why the sudden shift for peace among Republicans and British alike? In his book, Armed Struggle, author Richard English provides significant insight. While the increasing violence certainly played a role, the world was changing dramatically in the early 90s. The IRA had always been a hardline leftist organization, but when the Soviet Union...
Do you still think the British are bad? I love this community. Immediately. Yes, they're doing targeting missions for Israel over Gaza. They're just as responsible for the genocide as America is. Okay, you're hyping up the British involvement a little bit too much. You're right that they are responsible. And someone should ask why there are so many British surveillance flights from Cyprus over the Gaza coastline. I wonder why that's happening, or why Keir Starmer went there. Weird. Just a weird thing that these European leaders are doing, even though they technically, too, are supposed to be under the ICC jurisdiction. Kid starver, seeing children not being starved or being starved, wanted to surveil it up close and personally. Fucking piece of shit. Anyway. So the answer is yes. The British are still bad, just like America is, okay? The UK at this point is just basically broke boy America. They're still up to no good. They're still trying to do their own shit. Luckily limited by their, current conditions, I guess, but still trying to make the most. Such a sad state of affairs overall, man. What the fuck is happening around the globe? There are wonderful, revolutionary people in all of these countries that I talk about, even Israel, okay? And the unfortunate reality is that these movements are so utterly stunted.
Collapsed. The international attitudes towards these politics changed. Left-leaning IRA members and Irish citizens both regarded socialism quite differently after the Soviet failure. Across the whole world, the collapse of communism had dealt quite a blow to anti-capitalist sentiment. As the Cold War ended, this also provided a way forward for the IRA. The UK was an ally with the US during this period, so America had stayed firmly out of Irish issues. Although historically uncharacteristic, American involvement was now opening the doors to peace. Bill Clinton was recently elected president, and he became quite instrumental in moving forward Irish peace efforts. He was sympathetic to Republican causes and helped.
It is kind of crazy that the American Irish almost single-handedly caused America not to get involved in this. Because I feel like if they were to be involved initially, it would have been entirely on the British side. And the American involvement quite literally undermined. The American involvement almost across the board undermined the British position. Whether it be fundraising or laundering guns, like trafficking weapons into Ireland. But make no mistake, America's lack of official involvement in this process was a good thing. It's kind of wild.
Held a cache of global power that had always been absent from the movement. Free from the Cold War, Clinton could act for Ireland in ways that the British would not have appreciated. And he did just that. Clinton opened his doors to militant Republicans, even granting visas to prominent members of the movement. This put international light on the Irish struggle, breaking down barriers between the conflict and the influential Western world. The Irish had been strategically cut off and ghettoized by the British. In opening discussions with the Republicans, Clinton created a sort of counterbalance to the heavy thumb of the British government. The Republicans essentially had America on their side now, more or less mediating the conflict. Diplomacy had now created the European Union, which provided an indication that peaceful talk could indeed unify populations. The European Union also meant that London had a more integrated role within Ireland, rather than the distant one that had previously existed. Of course, we should recognize that Irish Republicans were still an autonomous group. Their own internal issues and developments also pushed them towards peace. Primarily, the war had reached a stalemate. The Irish had been unable to entirely break Britain down as they had originally planned. Furthermore, continuing violence would likely harm the Republican bargaining position. The longer they fought, the worse their reputation became, and the less deference they were allowed in negotiations. Conversely, as things stood, the Republicans could very likely produce positive results, even if those results were not entirely what they wanted. In some ways, the IRA was facing a now or never situation. However, the tone briefly changed when Britain laid out their conditions for peace talks. They called for a complete decommissioning of IRA weapons. To the IRA, this read basically as a demand for surrender, under which the Republicans would admit defeat. They saw it as an act of bad faith, meant only to weaken the movement. Key members of the IRA now believed the British had been using the ceasefire just for that purpose, to stall and weaken Republican efforts. So in 1996, the IRA canceled their agreement of cessation. They detonated bombs in London, and fighting resumed on both sides. Pressure shortly re-emerged for the IRA to renew the ceasefire, though, and resume peace talks. The pressure indeed resulted in another ceasefire in 1997, when the IRA were encouraged by a Labour Party victory in Britain. Tony Blair became the new Prime Minister. While not exactly a hero of the IRA, Blair was certainly more to their liking than previous leaders. Sinn Féin entered peace talks, this time with perhaps increased flexibility. A party leader said, "Negotiations are negotiations. You can't go in and dictate them and have a take-it-or-leave-it position. So we have to go in and listen. We will put our position, and we'll obviously look at all sorts of suggestions, ideas, and proposals put by others. We will consider all of that in the round as part of how you get a democratic peace settlement. Now, we should be careful not to paint with a broad brush. Certainly not all Republicans were enthused by the approach. But the ultimate result was indeed between all parties, Northern Ireland, the southern state, and Britain. This was known as the Good Friday Agreement. The agreement was immensely complex, and we need not review all of its many moving parts. But the broad takeaways were thus. It recognized that the majority of people in Northern Ireland did wish to maintain union with England. This was true. Unionism had widespread support in the North, even if the IRA alleged that it had been artificially implanted by the British. And so Northern Ireland would remain in the UK under the Good Friday Agreement. However, the agreement also recognized that
it was artificially implanted by the British. It's true. The fuck were they doing over there? Fucking Protestants, dude. Let me tell you something, okay? Don't get me started.
desire for a unified Ireland was legitimate and was held by a substantial amount of people in the North. So if the Northern majority opinion ever became a unified Ireland, all involved governments were obligated to respect and allow that decision. The agreement had been reached through Sinn Féin's work, who again were not part of the IRA, so for their say, the IRA did not wholly endorse the Good Friday Agreement. To do so would be a flagrant sort of compromise. In a statement, the IRA said, viewed against our...
Good Lord, Chowder's being annoyed, questioning why they were called Republican. I mean, yeah, they're just... It's the Irish Republic. It's like China is the People's Republic of China. It doesn't mean that they're Republicans, like in the American understanding. Actually, around the globe, American politics is like kind of... It's kind of busted. Like liberal means right-wing, which kind of is, right? I mean, it is right-wing. But in the United States of America, when you say liberal, you think like leftist. Even the blue versus red is flipped. Like red is historically the color of communism. Like it is internationally known as the color of revolutionary communism. So it's kind of wild that like Republicans, the right-wing party, the reactionary party, the fascist party owns red here. Yeah, hence the Red Scare, exactly. With the exception of J.D. Pondon.
Republican objectives or any democratic analysis, this document clearly falls short of presenting a solid basis for a lasting settlement.
J.D. Pondon is worthy of the color red.
A significant development. Many IRA members saw the settlement as a peaceful stage on which they could further pursue their goals. The IRA also believed that changing demographics would eventually bring about the unified Ireland, which the agreement did allow. They were unsatisfied, but perhaps optimistic. In the wake of this, the topic of decommissioning once again came into the picture. Britain demanded that the IRA hand over all of their weaponry before Sinn Féin was allowed into a newly formed parliamentary structure. And once again, the IRA refused, perhaps rightly. Nowhere in the Good Friday Agreement had this provision been outlined, but rather it was yet another demand on top of an already unsatisfactory resolution. To hand over their weapons would also suggest an admittance of defeat, a surrender. Their entire reason for being was to defy the British Crown, so to hand over their weapons at the demands of that crown was unthinkable. Furthermore, decommissioning could delegitimize both the past and future use of force, which the IRA were not prepared to do. There was also the reality that violence hadn't ended. The Good Friday Agreement was a significant step, but it was not a panacea. Catholics were still being attacked and still needed defense. Certainly British loyalists would have very much liked the IRA to be disarmed, and that alone was another reason to refuse decommissioning. This threat of violence was one of the few bargaining chips which the IRA still possessed. But changing political dynamics within and outside of the country heaped pressure on the IRA to lay down their weapons. For the time being, it seemed clear that decommissioning simply had to happen. In 2001, the provisional IRA reluctantly began the process of laying down their weapons. A delicate and perhaps unconvincing peace had been reached. The troubles were over. The violence was not. The fight for a unified Ireland is not one that belongs only to the past. Today, many former members of the IRA still see the Good Friday Agreement as disgraceful or illegitimate. The new IRA is a splinter group which emerged in the wake of the Good Friday Agreement. They are remarkably active, having committed numerous acts of violence since their inception in the late 2000s. However, modern Irish republicanism does not only take the form of violence. Today, Sinn Féin is still a political party which enjoys significant support in Ireland without any links to IRA violence. Certainly, party supporters would recognize that it's incorrect to permanently tie violence and Irish republicanism together. In any case, the tale of the IRA is one of political oppression and violence against it. Although a uniquely Irish story, it is built on ideas and fights that continue to appear in our world. The British colonized Ireland, fractured the country, and oppressed its residents for centuries. These invaders were offered, time and time again, peaceful methods of exit. Time and time again, they refused. Perhaps the British should not have been so shocked when people started dying. In their principled efforts, the IRA committed atrocities,
Literally.
accidentally and intentionally.
I think a united struggle both through peaceful means, no matter how exhausted they may seem, no matter how impossible they may seem, is a profoundly important part of this process. Just as important as the sometimes violent or militant revolutionary part of the struggle. It is always working hand in hand. I think that is probably my most moderate centrist position. A lot of people will disagree with me on this and say, no, the only pathway forward is simply just to engage in violent struggle and forcefully purge your ranks or your national boundaries from the invading forces or from the colonial power. But I do think that, at least through everything I've seen throughout history, the absolute best path forward is to keep pressure across the board and to still maintain a peaceful wing, a peaceful but still revolutionary wing of your movement. Because once the fighting inevitably ends, okay, once the fighting inevitably ends, you need someone to play the role of the peacekeeper. You need someone to run the country. And that someone who runs the country, if they are if they maintain this militant perspective, if they maintain this militancy across the board, then usually you end up with a lot of purges, or you end up with a lot of violence in the aftermath, unnecessary violence at that point.
People outside of the country can sit here, far removed from the conflict, and say the IRA should have done this or should not have done that. We can say they should have just stuck with peaceful protest. But this is to engage with an imagined reality, with scenarios that are to us entirely hypothetical and so are tremendously easy to navigate. I think more prudent is to recognize truth. When people are pushed, they will push back, and they have every right to push back. Meanwhile, we who stand on the sidelines have no right to dictate how they do so.
What an interesting and timely documentary from Horses from 11 months ago. It is almost a direct one-to-one comparison to perhaps something that is ongoing, perhaps something that is still happening right now, something that is happening maybe in another country, far, far away from Ireland, a country that, of course, very much is very much aligned with the Palestinian cause. Ireland is very much aligned with the Palestinian cause. Just something to think about. Good video. All right, let's get to some fucking stupid ass drama. Ashley St. Clair plotted for half a decade to ensnare Elon Musk. Here, Greg Price says he's got a kid with a woman already in 2020. Seems unlikely to work out. Ashley St. Clair responds, well, he actually has 7 kids and goes through women pretty fast. For those of you who don't know what's going on, Elon Musk has a 13th child, okay? This time, he fucked a reply guy, Ashley St. Clair. It's pretty crazy. It is pretty crazy that Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on the planet, one of the most powerful figures on the planet, which is so sad to say, has now resorted to having sex with his reply guys on the platform that he purchased. Now, the only reason why we found out that Elon Musk has a child is because Ashley St. Clair came out and openly admitted it, because according to her, she had a child with Elon Musk 5 months ago, and the media was snooping around, and that she was worried about the media leaking this information, and she wanted to be the one that comes out and says it. Interesting turn of events. So since then, people have been scouring her tweets, including the neo-Nazi that worked with Kanye West, Milo Yiannopoulos, saying Ashley St. Clair plotted for half a decade to ensnare Elon Musk, to which Elon Musk replied, which is crazy. He said, whoa, 48 minutes ago. To which Ashley St. Clair replied to Elon and said, Elon, we have been trying to communicate for the past several days and you have not responded. When are you going to reply to us instead of publicly responding to smears from an individual who just posted photos of me in underwear at 15 years old? Ashley St. Clair is the mother of Elon's child. And right now, the mother of Elon's last child, is publicly duking it out with Elon Musk on Twitter, Elon Musk's website. What the fuck is happening? Here's a funny tweet. Not this one. There's no sin as cruel as alienating a child from a parent. Seeing so much of this everywhere. Hello, Caitlin says, girl, I have bad news for you. You know, okay. A chatter said last, question mark. I think you mean latest. You are right, chatter. I am wrong. I should have said Elon Musk's latest child, the mother of Elon Musk's latest, not last, most likely not last. Unfortunately, dear God, please be the last one, but definitely not last. Can you please explain who the fuck she is first? You jumped that first? No, I didn't. I did not jump that. I said what I said. I referred to Ashley St. Clair as an Elon Musk reply guy. And the reason why I didn't give any additional background to Ashley St. Clair is because that is literally what she is. Ashley St. Clair is basically one of these people that is just like a Twitter MAGA influencer. That's it. Like, it's not, it's nothing but that. That is the only thing she is. It's like that one bot account that responds to everyone on the left. What is it, like Caitlin or something? Not Caitlin. What's her name? Angelica. Angelica, exactly. I was hoping that I would see her under here, but she's not here. Angelica Reed. It's like, that's it. Like, who the fuck is Angelica Reed? Nobody knows. She's just in the replies of every single fucking post, everywhere. But of course, the brave investigative reporters over at TrueAnon, Brace Belden, specifically, who is a journalist, no matter how hard he denies this, did some digging and found out that Ashley St. Clair said there is no sin as cruel as alienating a child from a parent, seeing so much of this everywhere. The timing of that tweet was awfully suspicious. It turns out it was, well, this reporting was coming out. Grimes' mother says Elon Musk is withholding his children from her daughter. Please, Elon, I beg you. Subtweeting his ex-wife's mother while pregnant with his next baby. Con Inc. is amazing. If all 13 of the children get an equal share of the inheritance, they all end up as the 60th rich person in the world. Yeah, I don't think Elon Musk is going to give all 13 equal share, especially considering that Elon Musk already abandoned multiple children and publicly disowned one. Elon Musk battles to keep custody case in Texas where child support is capped at $2,760 per month for 3 kids, despite being the richest man in the world. This is probably one of the scummiest things you can do as the wealthiest person on the planet, by the way. Like, at least fucking give more money to your children, you jackass. That is crazy. Truly a petty, monstrous man, if this is true, to be fair. Or rather, they're trying to, he's trying to be economical about this, okay? He's trying to be frugal about this, knowing that his mission is to populate planet Earth with many more hell spawn. Elon Musk's child with MAGA Ashley St. Clair is absolutely roiled right-wing Twitter. It pits MAGA types praising St. Clair for securing wealth and good genes against trad types concerned that having a kid with a billionaire with limited involvement is far from the conservative ideal. Yeah, as is the case with all of right-wing reactionaries, they will fall in line, okay? Another tweet that has hit the timeline while we were talking. Oh my God, this just in. Ashley St. Clair. It's interesting that Elon is responsible to this clearly ingest screenshot that was discussed with his team months ago in a documented call. Now he decides to respond to it publicly from an account that posted underage photos of me, as if he wasn't asking me to have more children last week. I would like to take this offline for our child's sake and have been attempting to so for weeks. FYI, the security team on Elon's own platform locked the account he is now responding to for a week for posting a non-consensual underwear photo of me as a child. From head of safety, thanks for the call, Chris. We're balancing the post for non-consensual nudity. Given that it's paired with a threat to expose as well, we're increasing the timeout period to 1 week. Wait, so even if the baby mama of the owner of the website's child photography is released by a right-wing neo-Nazi freak, like bathing suit photos as a child is released by a right-wing neo-Nazi, he only gives them 1 week off? Wait, what does this mean? If there's no threat to expose, there is no 1 week? It's less than 1 week? This will also help get us to the right of this news cycle on Ashley. Get is also using the media matching tool to surface additional instances. Milo can't tweet for a week. That's what's guaranteed. Holy shit, Elon is exactly like Epstein, fucking their reply guys, then publicly having beef with them while he's still sexting behind the scenes. Oh my God. Well, as far as I know, I don't think Epstein ever offered a horse to silence someone that he had inappropriately propositioned. It is crazy that this person has 13 children at this point. 13. Many of which at this stage are old enough to understand how much of a fucking asshole their deadbeat dad is. Here's another statement regarding St. Clair Ashley. Ashley and Elon have been privately working towards the creation of an agreement about raising their child for some time. It is disappointing that a tabloid reporter who repeatedly ambushed Ashley and her family made it impossible to complete that process confidentially. We are waiting for Elon to publicly acknowledge his parental role with Ashley and to end unwarranted speculation. And Ashley trusts that Elon intends to finish their agreement quickly in the best interest of the well-being and the security of the child they share. I just don't understand why Elon, like, if you're not going to take care of these little kids, like, why the fuck are you having them? Like, what do you mean? We need to do a confidential private agreement for, like, taking care of these children? How is this a conservative value? What a stupid question I just asked. It's, of course, a rhetorical one. There is no conservatism here. There is no family. This is exactly conservative family values in display, okay? Reading between the lines, the Elon/Ashley St. Clair baby situation seems to be getting contentious between the two alleged parents. Foreshadowing. Stopping birth control and Adderall was one of the best things I ever did for my mental health. So many Americans are pharmaceutical cocktails and then wondering why they feel out of their minds. For sure. Riz King Elon. Absolutely Rizless. And end scene. Wagner chief says his forces will pull back. The pull-out method. Speaking personally, I obviously prefer the pull-in method. Doc MAGA. Doc MAGA. I love to have sex with you. Please. USA. Pure. And it worked. Yeah, no shit, dog. He's the richest person on the planet. What do you mean? This person is clout hungry and hungry for money. You think this person is like, wow, I was really taken in by Elon Musk's personal charm? No, dude. This is the thing that I always explain to people, and people constantly forget, okay? The entire point of not being a douchebag is not the way that, anti-feminists presented, where they create this false reality where, feminist men are just like saying that all women are unconditionally beautiful angels who can never lie or do whatever. That's not the point, okay? You can make individual assertions, okay? This doesn't mean that, like, women are infallible, okay? Women's rights and women's wrongs. Yes, there are definitely some women and men, okay? Everybody does this, that will be interested in fucking clout and money. Understandable proposition. Understandable conundrum, okay? This does not mean that all women are doing this. That's the difference. That's why I always say, like, there's a lot of bag chasers that go on these, like, silly podcasts and shit like that. And then these dumbass, misogynistic fucking losers will just present to their audience, this is how all women are. And it's like, no, dude. No, it's not. You're a fucking asshole. Yeah, this woman is known for her expose on migrants in an airport, by the way. Yeah, remember when she fucking lost her mind that there were brown people at an airport, non-citizens at an airport, famously where only American citizens are supposed to be at an airport. I'm becoming a Mackenzie Scott reply guy. Good luck. Jojo from Jers. Well, this one aged like milk, didn't it? Kamala can't help herself from bending over for a man to get ahead. Still, Grimes didn't deserve to get abused by Elon if she was bag chasing. Okay, I wouldn't even say that about Grimes. I'll say that about Ashley St. Clair. But Grimes is weird enough to actually think that, like, Elon Musk's autism is some kind of brilliance. Like, I don't think Grimes was fucking clout chasing. I think it was more so that she was probably pursued by Elon Musk. And also she's, not exactly all there to recognize that Elon Musk is a narcissistic, monstrous asshole. You're only saying that because she's a friend of the show? Yeah, Grimes is a fucking famous artist. Like, what are you... you guys are ridiculous. The dynamic is entirely different with a Twitter reply guy versus fucking Grimes, dude. Ironically enough, Grimes demonstrates time and time again that although she's Although she's not all there, she's definitely being honest. Whenever she tweets, you're like, okay, I know you're not grifting. This is just who you are, which I think is worse after spending, after getting better custody arrangement deals, I think, in an effort to get better custody arrangement deals and defending Elon Musk's Diablo account or whatever. She then turned around and was shocked when fucking Elon Musk was actually parading their child inside of the White House, which she did not like for understandable reasons. If you zoom into the shut up live, my wife left me. She's actually the one taking the pic of Elon and Kanye. Yeah, I saw that. That's the PR. He knew this tweet was coming. This stream supports Comrade Grimes. Yeah, okay. I'll support Comrade Grimes one day. So Elon now has a Jewish child. Worst Nazi ever. Oh my God. God, I hate this platform so much. It's so fucking bad. It's so bad. Everything is so stupid. It's just like, I don't know if it's, the thing is, I don't know if it's a better structure to have like God ordained, heaven sent, in air quotes, monarchs and like feudal lords and serfs, and then have them do all this weird freaky shit and do all, and not actually demonstrate how stupid they are all the goddamn time in public. Like, if that was relegated to like closed door dealings, would that be better? I don't know, because this type of shit is so annoying. It's so fucking annoying to see all the goddamn time. But normally, rational thinkers would say, no, it's good. This will cause Americans and many people who have that peasant mindset to recognize that these guys that are feudal lords that oversee our lives are actually dumbasses just like they are. Except it has the reverse effect, okay? Instead of people recognizing that meritocracy is simply a myth and that Elon Musk is not this like brilliant person, they just end up going, no, he's still, meritocracy is real and he's still a brilliant person. He's just like me. Not realizing that just like me means, yeah, just like you, a fucking idiot, okay? People are so, like, I think this kind of shit unironically makes people dumber. The servants heard everything and it would make its way across the land anyways. Lamau, this is just quicker but no less insane. Anti-Deutsch bars in Berlin love Israel but not Jews, reported by Left Journal. Supposed anti-capitalist and progressive bars act anti-Semitically towards Jews but love Israel. Yes, anti-Deutsche is fucking insane. They literally did hate crimes that are ironically also considered anti-Semitic hate crimes in the beginning to defend Israel after October 7, where they dumped pig lard in an Arab cafe. They broke the windows and then dumped pig lard in a cafe that was operated by Arabs. I don't want to talk about Germans, man. I just makes me sad. Yeah, it's not kosher either. You literally, it's technically also anti-Semitic. Like if the cafe that they were resisting against was also simultaneously like both Jewish and also Muslim operated, they could have done the double Monty, the unforeseeable, the unthinkable, the dual hate crime that is both anti-Semitic and also Islamophobic at the same time. Germany was better when it was a bunch of small tribes. I agree, dude. Those fucking small tribes got their shit together and were able to actively stamp out the Romans, okay? They were actively able to defend their lands from the mightiest military in history at the time. We need to balkanize Germany. We need to bring them back. We need to return to the true Germanic tradition, which is a balkanized tribal state led by pagan barbarians. Hey Hassan, our team has helped launch a number of Twitch crypto tokens with 2 million profits. You interested? I would rather kill myself, you dumb fuck. Yes, we must balkanize Germany and then make the Balkans one again under the glorious leadership of Tito. Yugoslavia now, Yugoslavia forever. Anyway, bro said, dude, please get in. Long on retardio. Stop lamenting about Germans. Go and do something against your fascist government. Oh, man.
I kind of thought 10 years ago, we're kind of done with the conversation about anti-Semitism.
Oh God! Oh my God! Oh my Lord! This is Elon's latest baby mama. I can't believe that you could just be the dumbest person on the fucking planet and just, you know, as long as you say the right things. Sick ableism. What? W phase. Sick ableism. W ableism. Dog, retardio is the literal name of a fucking shitcoin. What are you talking about? W phase. Dog, if you don't know about retardio, don't even fucking come in here, okay? Don't even fucking come in here and talk to me about dog shit 1 or dog shit 2 or even dog shit 3, okay? All my apes are still intact. You understand? Also, a German saying, go worry about your own fucking fascist government. Stop talking about Germany is so funny because the very same problems that we are experiencing here in the United States of America, Germany is also experiencing. So, like, we are united in this struggle, ironically enough. And sometimes it's the very same fucking villains that are responsible for the very same issues. Elon Musk being the unifying figure here. I'm confused as to why so many conservatives are cheering on a single mother who gave birth to a child out of wedlock. What exactly are we conserving if degeneracy is not widely embraced? If we're truly fighting for the restoration of traditionalism and real Christian values, I'm sorry, but this is not the way. Here's the other side of the story. A few things are true. All babies are worth celebrating. Journos who go after children are the scum of the earth and should probably face jail time. Intentionally creating motherless or fatherless children is tragic or cruel. But Joe Manarino, on the other hand, the neoconservative movement that is carrying on the torch of being a fucking asshole, but openly, instead of, you know, the old school way of doing conservatism, which is exactly what Elon is doing, but just like hide it. Joey Manarino says, Ashley St. Clair won at life. Sad to see people hate. Also, I thought we encouraged people having babies. We can't even say he isn't going to fuck you, little bro, because he actually might. It's sad, but also very true. You are correct in this assessment. In the past, we could say, well, you know, how about you stop glazing, little bro? He's not going to fuck you. Turns out he does fuck his reply guys. So I don't know. Turns out when I first covered the story of the Elon Musk dick riders that were saying like, oh my God, this air stewardess both got a chance to suck Elon's pee-pee and also get a horse from him. I would have done it for free. I made fun of those guys. I was like, wow, how can you ride a dick so hard? How can you be this much of a subhuman? Okay, how can you be this servile, right? That's what I was thinking. Turns out those guys were just thinking ahead. They were trying to actually suck the cum directly out of Elon's penis, which apparently is a thing you can do. So congratulations to Ian Miles Chong. You were right. I was wrong. You do still have the opportunity, if Elon Musk ever makes it out to Malaysia, to become impregnated by him. Yeah. Don't give him credit. Nope. Credit where credit is due. One day, Ian Miles Wrong can also be getting cream pies from Elon.
And now it seems on the left, we've just seen it, you know.
This is the Elon Musk's latest baby mama, by the way.
Absolutely come back in full force. But I'm starting to see it on the right as well, where I'm going, I didn't expect it from your guys.
I've always said anti-Semitism is a bipartisan position.
Yes, and especially what's characterizing it now. First of all, we just can't catch a break, can we? But what's characterizing it now is really Marxism. And it's hard not to laugh at the institutions like Columbia being taken over by these people. And you have the Jewish professors, I think it was David Shea or one of them who, you know, he had his card turned off.
Shy David, my king, my shy. Oh no, my shy.
And if you go back and you see his tweets and his posts from during the height of the BLM riots, he's saying,
what is this? This post gives me hope. The beard song guy is like a super ugly Nazi, isn't he? This post gives me hope. You can be the ugliest chud on the planet, but as long as you have a Twitter clout, you can bag a girlfriend. Ian says, I was trying to think of a funny caption to post, but I have nothing really to say apart from Dubai is pretty awesome. I am not the girlfriend. He's my ex-husband's friend. I love that Ian Miles Wrong tried to make it seem like he had a girl, and then it ended up creating this chaotic situation for him where she had to come out and publicly be like, I am not someone who is in any way, shape, or form romantically involved with this douchebag. I would never, I repeat, ever be around him in a non-platonic manner. Anyway, great stuff happening. Great stuff happening here. Great stuff happening everywhere. I sense the most powerful NDA known in the universe being drafted. A heaving Elon Musk rolling off your body after giving you a heckin' epic doggo cream pie. Oh my lord. I'm hearing words I never want to hear again. I'm sorry. You have to hear it and you have to think it. Okay? This has to be in your mind. I'm not sorry, actually. It happened. It happened in the real world. And you should know that it happened, okay? And maybe sometimes even think about how it happened. Sorry. Call me a monster all day, every day. This is the new normal. This is the new normal. This is the new reality. These are our rulers. These are the people that have profound power over your lives. Okay? It's true. So yeah, while you squabble about someone being, I don't know, 10% more leftist than you or 10% less leftist than you, and how that is the most profound disagreement that you could never actually come to terms with, those are the guys who are running the show. Just remember that and think about that all the time. I do. I can't get it out of my fucking mind. So neither should you. Joe Rogan is now the Hillary Clinton of comedy. Joe Rogan or Bill Burr? Be informed. Compare them on the issues that matter. Billionaires. People are worried that Elon is going to steal everyone's money. He has 400 billion. Elon's not going to steal your money. That's not what he's doing. He's a super genius that has been fucked with. When you've been fucked with by these nitwits that behind the three-letter agencies, and you're dealing with one of the smartest people alive, helping Donald Trump get into office, and find out what corruption is really going on, you fucked up. You fucked up, and you picked the wrong psychopath on the spectrum. He's going to hunt you down and find out what's going on and what's good for everybody. That's how you should be looking at this. Like, wow, we have a brilliant mind examining these really corrupt and goofy systems and bringing a bunch of psychopath wizards. The issue of billionaires, they need to be put down, you know, like fucking rabid dogs. All right? Billionaires are good for no one but themselves. Okay? That's it. Playlist from Tamaces, if you missed it. Oh, I did miss it. I want to see what Bill Burr had to say. There was a quote that everybody wanted me to watch from Bill Burr. What the fuck? That was an incredible impression. You've been practicing that? No, I've just been a Bill Burr fan for years. And I used to listen to his podcast all the time.
In that same event, Trump advisor Elon Musk raised eyebrows for a gesture some are comparing to a Nazi salute. Nazi salute? Nazi salute?
Nazi salute.
A Nazi salute.
A
Nazi.
America, love it or leave it, and all of this type of shit. And it's like, you know, all those guys who died on D-Day, they were fighting Hitler. Like, I've lived so long. Like, you know, everything just sort of changes after a while. It's like, wait a minute, are people trying to say he was a good guy now? The fucking level of ignorance out there. And what is that fucking Twitter guy? He literally sieged Heil. He didn't just Heil. You know, you can accidentally Heil. Hey! Oh, so, I didn't mean like that. But when you add the sieg, you meant it. Good Lord. It is just so funny to me how when I was growing up, all of these fucking women that hated men, they were always focusing on the athletes and they never paid attention to the nerds. And now look at it. You know, you were paid attention to the wrong fucking people. You know, I don't know what their deal was. They were upset because you were a good looking guy and you could fucking score a touchdown. And these nerds just silently resenting beautiful women, resenting, you know, the fucking good looking guy, the Burt Reynolds guy out there with the T-tops crushing it, silently resenting. And now we are in the true revenge of the nerds era. And look at that guy with his Turkish hair plugs and his laminated face, and now he's out here sieg heiling. I mean, that guy is off his fucking rocker. I can't believe he's still in, like, whatever position he just got. Like, how the fuck do you keep that guy in that position? It's like, wait a minute, this guy is he rooting for the other side? He's on the Axis side? All of these movies along...
Yeah, the problem is, I think a lot of Americans are on the Axis side. Like, there are more Americans that actively would have been a part of the German Bund movement than I previously thought.
Fucking way, the greatest generation, D-Day, all of those lives that were sacrificed so that people could live free. And this fucking nerd, because he couldn't get any pussy in high school, is now identifying with Hitler. Oh my God. This is where liberalism is bad, because and why extreme conservatism works over liberalism is because liberals at heart are non-confrontational. And this is like some shit that needs to be stomped out immediately. That people are gonna like fucking try to lead us back in that direction. I mean, what are we doing? This is the United States. We're united, not divided. And like, are we really gonna fuck this up because Elon Musk couldn't get any pussy in fucking high school? Like we're really gonna fuck this whole thing up? Fucking guy. I mean, I don't know. It just boggles my fucking mind. I don't know. Well, we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays. Why would he be a Nazi? Like, what does he feel he's not getting as a white man? I mean, it's like you're a fucking billion. You got more money than anybody. You're still upset? Like, how do you have the bandwidth with the amount of fun? You're shooting rockets off and all of this stuff. You still have the bandwidth to fucking, to be like not liking people because they don't look like you? Is that what it is? I mean, to be honest with you, nobody looks like Elon Musk. That's what scared me about that guy. You know what I mean? Like, Hitler couldn't live up to his version of what the perfect human was. What do you like, blonde, blue-eyed, and all of those fucking Scandinavian people? And like, he was this ugly little fucking troll. That was one ugly son of a bitch, I will tell you that. You know, scowling. He definitely came with the grunge vibe before grunge music. Hitler definitely had Seattle energy. He was not a Sunset Strip guy. T-tops, doing some blow, walking, flying, driving down the street with some big-titted fucking blonde. That was not his vibe. He was Hitler's chicks had hairy legs. I'm gonna say that's what it was. That's what he could get. He was a private. He was a private in the service. He was a private in the army. And I don't know. And we all paid the fucking price. So now here comes another one. Here comes another one. You know what? The greatest country and the freest country in the world needs fascism.
Springfield will have its first annual Do What You Feel festival this Saturday, whenever you feel like showing up. It'll be a welcome change from our annual Do It, started by German settlers in 1946.
Unreal. Unfucking real. I hate that expression, come to Jesus moment. The fuck does that mean? All right? I'm running from that guy. All right? Not him personally. All right? I got no problem with that surfing-looking guy. You know, he looks like he, you know, goes out on a board out there in Malibu.
Oh my God, it's Jesus! The surfer-looking guy. He loves his own fucking jokes, dude. This is also probably the only way he can do a one-person pod, because he's just constantly cracking his ass up himself.
You know,
up.
carves up the waves or whatever. I got no beef with him, but it's who he works for. I stay away from those guys. You know, I cut out.
Says you? Come on, dude. At least I talked to like 30,000 people in here. There is a little bit of back and forth. Although I do crack myself up. Yes, it is true. And I do talk to myself for 8 hours a day. But at least there's some feedback in the chat that I'm responding to. Bro, you laughed at shit jokes you've made before. Bottom of the barrel stuff. Not gonna lie. God damn. Motherfucker, you've given me money, $5 for 52 months in a row. Okay? 52 months in a row. And you're over here shitting. What does that say about you? Huh? What does that say about you? That you fund this silly man, okay, who laughs at his own bottom of the barrel jokes. It seems like you're laughing too. I'm laughing. You're laughing. We're laughing together. We crowed. Okay, I cried. She cried. We crowed. You're laughing too. You're like, damn, that Hassan did it again. You can also subscribe for $6 or for free with the Twitch Prime. Put me down, gringo. No, I picked your little ass up like this, okay? I picked you like a baby and put you on the town square. Anyway.
like the middle. You know, religion, you know what? It's like trying to give money to a charity. It's like trying to get the money to the actual people that use it once it goes through the fucking infrastructure is impossible. And that's what I
Thank
find
you,
with, like, if you're
Gorfina.
going to try to have a relationship with the higher power.
For the
I
5
don't
gifted,
get
and
how
Luke
you
and
do that
Master.
through
Thank you for the
organized
5
fucking
gifted.
religion. You know? Just inherently, it doesn't make any sense. I feel like your sense of a higher power and that there's something bigger than you, your own personal thing, and that somebody privatized it and turned it into a fucking business and then starts throwing down rules and scaring the shit out of you and telling you if you do this, you do that, all of this shit. They don't know. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about. And now it's a business and they're making all this money. You make money, you got boats. You got boats, you got money, you got whores. You got whores, you know, you're out there fucking, you know, fucking having a good time. You don't want it to end. So then, I don't know, it all fucking goes away. So I feel like that's my own business. And if all these different groups can make up their own bullshit or what the fuck they think's going to happen after you die, why can't I? How come I can't have my own bullshit? And I like my bullshit because it doesn't involve anybody else. I'm not putting it on anybody. There's no collection basket. There's no pedophiles. There's no getting in bed with the Nazis. And, oh, did we have some of your money? Sorry about that. There's none of that shit. None of that shit. There's no terrorists. There's no fucking 90 virgin. There's none of that shit. None of that shit.
Don't ask how come, why come the pastor have to have him a nice house? Why come pastor got to have a nice car? Don't ask. I said don't ask. I said don't ask. No questions.
None of that shit. I don't even know what it is. It's just it's your own fucking thing. You're on your own. Maybe that's what some people, I think they just like the group dynamic, you know, just to be part of something. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but the Nazi party started with a bake sale, and people just wanted.
This is what I imagine when Hassan pulls up a chatter's comment. It is true. That is literally what it is. Oh my God. I wish I could just like pick you up by your head like that and have your arms flail around and be like, yeah, stop, stop it. But that's literally it. I'm over here like, get over here. Get over here right now. Just pick you up. Come here, chatter. Anyway.
Wanting to be part of a community. Who is Elon Musk dating?
You are the political Bill Burr. An absolute bully, but a well-liked one. No, I'm not like Bill Burr. Bill Burr has, due to the nature of his career, he has developed like tremendous good faith from a lot of groups that unironically will listen to him and go, he's so based and he's so smart and so funny, while simultaneously turn around and yell at me about how much of a hypocritical socialist I am. But that's part of the reason why I love Bill Burr, is because like he has a way of speaking the language. I'll never be able to do that. Our background is different. Our aesthetics are different. You know what I mean? Bill Burr is the guy who appeals to your coworkers. Like your coworkers will listen to Bill Burr and go, "Oh, that's a funny guy. I can see where he's coming from."
Can you imagine his chick when he just sees him go out there and then just watches him start Sieg Heiling? Like, oh my God, what is he doing? He's going to burn this whole thing down. I think he just lost his job. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Nothing happened. I cannot believe nothing happened. Nothing happened. How do you explain that away?
Musk posted on X, frankly, they need better dirty tricks. The everyone is Hitler attack is so tired.
How close are you to getting him on the show? Further than ever before.
I saw some guy who was saying gesture truthism and trying to like make it seem like people were saying that he wasn't Sieg Heiling. He goes, okay, what was he doing? What was he saying? And then my rockets are gonna get launched and they go that way. Maybe it was taken out of context. You know who would do the Sieg part of the Heil, but not the whole Sieg Heil, was that Celine Dion. It was like she was a Nazi that was stuttering. You know what I mean? She couldn't quite get through it. She would Sieg. She'd like punch herself in the cleavage. Hey, Elon Musk, if you don't mind, we'd like to enjoy our life. I don't think we need to.
Has he ever said where he gets his news from? I think I hate to admit this, but I think he's a big Jimmy Dore head. He doesn't completely align with him though, clearly. But I think that he might be like an actual Jimmy Dore guy.
Reboot Adolf Hitler, you fucking lunatic. I'm sorry, pretty girls don't like you until you have $1 billion.
I hope not anymore.
Dude, when he was Sieg Heil, that looked like one of those crazy Nick Cage movies.
No, he's not. He's just friends with him because Jimmy was a comic before. I thought he would watch a bunch of Jimmy Dore stuff initially.
You ever see that clip when Nick Cage went out and he was like throwing karate kicks?
In my headcanon, he listens, he watches me. In my headcanon, Bill Burr watches the stream with the lovely Nia. They sit down in their jammies. He goes, "How are ya?" And they just watch me on YouTube. They put the YouTube on. That's what, it's just, let me dream, okay? Can I dream? Is that okay? Why is everybody poo-pooing on my dreams? This is my dream.
He was like promoting a movie and he just fucking went out and I don't know what. He was probably towards the end. Some people don't know. You do those press junkets, you're going to get asked the same 30 questions like 30 million times. And after a while, you kind of fucking lose your mind. And that's what I love about that clip. I feel like Nick was at the end of his wits there. And he was just, fucking throwing kicks.
I've never seen this clip before. Dude, Bill Burr brings up only the most relevant stuff.
Yeah, I feel like maybe Elon, he has all this money and power and he thought it was going to fill that fucking void and it didn't. And rather than face it in a panic of the profound loneliness. Okay, and I'm coming from an empathetic place here because I experienced that when I took mushrooms. It's a profound sense of loneliness. And then you either face that and figure out where it is or you just go full Nazi. I feel he's more Mussolini. If I'm to look at his face, I feel he's more Mussolini than he is Hitler. I got to be honest with you. The fact that he did that and everyone isn't fucking outraged is beyond me. Because I always felt like this country collectively all agreed that Hitler was not a good person, to put it mildly. And I also think that we all look at World War II as far as the sacrifices that were made and what was prevented was a good thing. I feel like that's the last war that we had where people weren't like, some people are like, well, Vietnam, they were stopping the spread of communism. Then other people are like, no, that was just a fucking whatever, right? But World War II, I was always collectively like, yeah, those were bad people. They needed to be stopped. And the sacrifices that people made was not in vain. That was, without a doubt, a just operation. I thought that's where we all were. And the irony that this fucking asshole was able to make $1 billion in the nation that those kids saved in the 1940s would then turn around and fucking spoon with the person that was killing their fucking fellow soldiers. It's beyond me. It's just fucking beyond me. I don't know. You know what he reminds me of? Like back in the day, like when I was coming up, there was an entire generation of comedians that I was in that was enamored with Bill Hicks. And you'd see these Bill Hicks ripoffs, and they would go on stage and they would have like a leather jacket and they'd be smoking a
Does Bill know Elon's from apartheid South Africa? Yeah, I think Bill, there's no way Bill thinks that Elon is from Germany, right?
cigarette talking about society, man. I feel like he's doing that. I think he's like a recovered nerd, and now he's trying to be like the bad boy. What was that Johnny Depp movie? It was a really good movie. All of it. I like all those movies, but like it was that one. The fuck was it called? It was almost like a musical. He was like 1950s Crybaby.
It's crazy when you think about it. It's crazy how hot Johnny Depp used to be.
Baby or something like that.
Like,
I feel like he's trying to be that
wild.
Character. He's trying to be like this bad boy. This bad boy that Kate Moss would date. And I just don't think it's going to happen no matter how much money he has. I think that realization hit him. And he didn't know how to handle it. And
he's still hot, dumbass. Before people used to be, he aged like wine. Oh, no. The Amber Heard trial, I think, really bricked a lot of people's brains. Like it is pretty crazy how hard the fucking Amber Heard trial just like created this fissure in most people's collective conscious. Like that, this is what people are. He's an old man, bro. What the fuck do you want from him? First of all, he's not just like any old man. He's a Hollywood old man, okay? So it is kind of shocking that people just talk about like how he's just an old man, dude. Okay. Yeah, so is George Clooney, dude. What the fuck?
Damn, this guy's good.